যতীন আছো? যতীন, আপনি না। হ্যালো যতীন।
হ্যাঁ রয়েছি।
ওকে,
শোনা যাচ্ছে সব কথাগুলো?
হ্যাঁ শোনা যাচ্ছে,
হ্যাঁ
কিন্তু আমার কথা স্পষ্ট শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
হ্যাঁ শোনা যাচ্ছে।
তুমি আরেকবার বলো।
হ্যাঁ
ঠিক আছে।
হ্যালো, শোনা যাচ্ছে পরিষ্কার?
ওকে।
মোটামুটি ঠিক আছে, মোটামুটি ঠিক আছে।
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে। আমি
ঠিক আছে।
দাঁড়া, আমি ভিসি স্যারকে লিঙ্কটা পাঠালাম, পেয়েছেন কিনা একটু জিজ্ঞেস করে নি। এখন অফ করে রাখলাম।
এই যতীন, তুমি স্যারকে দাওনি তাই তো? ও মোরা স্পিকারই লাগানো নেই। যতীন, তুমি স্যারকে লিংক দাওনি তো?
স্যারকে আপনি পাঠিয়ে দেন।
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, দিয়েছি।
স্যারকে পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছি আমি ওই দিন।
না উনি লিংক আজকেরটা পাঠিয়েছি ফার্স্ট মেলে, দেখুন ওটা 6 সেপ্টেম্বর লিখিনি, আর আরেকটা মেল করেছি 7 সেপ্টেম্বর বলে লিখে। আপনি আগের মেলটা, ফার্স্ট মেলটায় ঢুকবেন, যেটা কিছু লেখা নেই। মিটিং
দিদি ওগুলো পরে আলোচনা করলেই হবে, এখন তো টাইম হয়ে গেছে না?
আর বলো না,
টাইম হয় কি হয়েছে, সব শুরু হয়ে গেছে।
আরে অনেকের তো, আপনি থেমে যান না, বাইরে থেকে আসুন।
জয়জিৎ,
যতীন্দ্র,
হ্যাঁ তুমি জাস্ট 1 মিনিট আগে শুরু করে দেবে। তুমি শুরু করতে পারো নাকি জয়জিৎ? কিন্তু আমাদের ভিসি স্যার কি ঢুকেছেন?
না,
স্যার ঢুকলেই আমরা স্টার্ট করবো, বুঝেছো? কথাগুলো ইকো হয়ে আসছে কেন বলতো আমার কাছে?
যতীন্দ্র, আমি কি শুরু করবো না স্যার বিসি স্যারের জন্য ওয়েট করবো?
স্যারকে বুঝছেন না, দেখছেন স্যারকে কি আমি একটু কল করি না? ঢুকে গেলে আমাদের পড়াটা এই তো স্যার ঢুকে গেছেন। এবারে জয়জিৎ স্টার্ট করতে পারো? স্টার্ট করো জয়জিৎ।
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Dr. Joyjit Majumdar, faculty member of Department of Ecological Studies of University of Kolkata, would like to welcome on this wonderful occasion of today's webinar on Environment, Food, Health, NEXUS under Changing Global Scenario, jointly organized by Department of Ecological Studies and International Center for Ecological Engineering and Department of Food and Nutrition. Once Mahatma Gandhi said, "Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed." So we are polluting environment and it causing climate, impacting climate on a huge, and therefore every aspect of human life, including the food and food security, is getting hampered. Now I would like to hand over the dais to my senior colleague, Dr. Assistant Professor Jotindranath Bhakto, to deliver his Joint Secretary inaugural address. Jotindra, it's over to you.
Hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Very, very good morning, everybody. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, respected Dean, special guests, and dignitaries, auxiliaries, dear colleagues, participants, students, research scholars, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my immense pleasure to deliver key address in the 2 days webinar, Environment, Food, Health, NEXUS under Changing Global Scenario. Today we are celebrating the National Nutrition Week 2021 by organizing a 2 days webinar. It is also gives me an immense pleasure and privilege to extend to all a very warm greetings to the 2 days international webinar on environment, food, health, nexus under changing global scenario. On behalf of organizing committee, Department of Ecological Studies and International Center for Ecological Engineering and also Department of Food and Nutrition, University of Kolkata. We are really grateful to our Chief Patron, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Manas Kumar Sannal, Chief Co-Patron, Vice Chancellor, and Patron Dean Professor K.K. Sarkar, all special guests, chief guests, and invited speakers who have accepted our invitation and presence in the virtual inaugural program to convene this timely webinar. We are really grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor for virtual presence in the inaugural program and inauguration, and also for giving such approval to organize this very timely webinar. Vice Chancellor is really a very positive-minded, dynamic, and enthusiastic person. He always motivates us for conducting different activities of department and overall development of the university. Personally, he always extending a lot of cooperation by approving different proposals submitted to him. Also thankful for approving 2 projects from RUSA Fund for 2 departments. He's striving hard to give good shape of the department. Again, my heartiest welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor. And also welcome to Professor Gautam Pal, Honorable Vice Chancellor. Heartiest welcome to our Dean Professor K.K. Sarkar for presenting in the virtual inaugural program. Also warm welcome to our special guest, Professor B.V. Jana. He is also the founder of the Department of Ecological Studies and International Center for Ecological Engineering. Again, heartiest welcome to our Sir Professor B.V. Jana. Warm welcome to Professor Odit Gupta from Assam University. He is presently Vice Chairman of Tripura State Education Council, and he was Professor in the Department of Ecological and Environmental Science and also Vice Chancellor of the Assam University. Warm welcome to Professor Udit Rai Chaudhary from Jadavpur University. Warm welcome to special guest, to Professor Sagar Sandal, who is the retired professor of West Bengal University of Animal and Fisheries Science, Calcutta. He is also really a very cooperative person. He has significant contribution for the development of the Department of the Food and Nutrition in our university. Warm welcome to invited speaker, Professor Asim Dr. Rai from the Oslo University. Warm welcome to Professor Super National from the Uppsala University, Sweden. And also warm welcome to Professor Devidas Ghosh from Vidyasagar University. Finally, I would like to express my warm welcome to Dr. Shantan Banerjee, Senior Consultant of Infectious Disease at Venugata ID and BG Hospital, Kolkata, India. So it is gratifying to note that the theme of the 2 days international webinar on environment, food, health nexus under changing global scenario covers a wide range of very interesting nexus among environment, food, health in the present changing global scenario. Last centuries brought unprecedented development in the human history and major breakthrough in scientific and technical fields. It resulted in the serious undesirable changes in the global environment. Environment, food, health has a critical nexus with complex functional and structural properties for maintaining the homeostasis and sustainability of the local environment. Any kind of undesirable changes in the environment pose challenges to the food production system, which consequently tremendous impacts on nutrition and health of the living organisms and ecosystem on the planet Earth. Keeping in mind, today our distinguished invited speakers will enlighten and focus with these matters. Again, I am extending my warm welcome to all of you. Thank you. This is my end. Okay, I am asking to Jayajit, please call to next one.
Thank you, Dr. Jyotirnath Bhakta, for your welcome address. Now I would like to ask our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Sandal, Sir, to deliver his Chief Patron inaugural speech and enlighten us with his wonderful words. Sir, please come on the stage, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome, sir.
Dr. Jyotirnath Bhakta and Professor Jayanto Vishwas, the organizing secretary of this webinar. Respected Professor B.V. Jana, the eminent scientist in this area. Professor Gautam Pal, Pro-Vice Chancellor of this university. Professor K.K. Sarkar, Dean, Faculty of Science of our university. Professor Ashim Kumar Dattolai, University of Oslo, Norway. Professor Obhik Gupta, Assam University. Professor Sagar Sandal, Dr. Sushmita Lahiri, Dr. Sushil Moldol of our department. department, all faculty members of this department, distinguished speakers, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to inaugurate the two-day international webinar on environment, food, health nexus under changing global scenario, organized by the Department of Ecological Studies and International Center for Ecological Engineering and Department of Food and Nutrition. I convey my greetings to all who have joined this online international webinar. We know the environmental impact of mainstream agri-food systems and including the climate change and contamination, pollution and degradation of natural resources, which generate effects on biophysical system via multiple interconnected pathways. These rooted interactions are associated with impacts on human health, that is food, health, environment nexus, the today's topics. I sincerely hope that this today's international webinar will address the food environment health nexus under changing global scenario and explore the possibilities to improve the performance of the food system in our country in pursuing multiple sustainable development goals, including zero hunger, good health and well-being, responsible consumption and production, climate action, etc. I sincerely hope this conference will significantly contribute to an atmosphere of free exchange of ideas, develop new dimension of research, and encourage young researchers, faculty members, and students for better interaction. I take this opportunity to convey my heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee for their constant effort to make the event successful. I wish this event grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Manoj Kumar Sharma, for enlightening us and officially inaugurating this two-days international webinar on environment, food, health, and nexus under changing global scenario. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for your wonderful words. I would like to quote famous actor come environmentalist Leonardo DiCaprio. He said, "Our planet's alarm is going off, and it is time to wake up and take action." Now, I would like to ask our beloved Dean of Science, Professor Keka Shorkar, ma'am, to take on the center stage and deliver her speech of Patron. Ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, invited guests, distinguished delegates, organizing committee members, and all participants. On behalf of the University of Kolani, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all and take this opportunity to congratulate the Department of Ecological Studies, International Center for Ecological Engineering, as well as the Department of Food and Nutrition of our university for conducting this very important international two-day webinar to celebrate the National Nutrition Week 2021. I'm ecstatic to find that we have found the support from so many distinguished patrons and renowned scientists to deliberate on very many burning issues concerning environment, food, and health that directly or indirectly impacts human lives. Moreover, as we still continue to struggle with the unanticipated challenges of the COVID pandemic, we need to be more rational and scientific in our approach towards managing not just our lives but the environment as well. Uh, An inconvenient truth is that the burning of fossil fuels has increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, causing global warming. The global warming can result in many serious alterations to the environment, eventually impacting human health. It can also cause a rise in sea level, leading to the loss of coastland, a change in precipitation patterns, increased risk of droughts and floods, and threats to biodiversity also. Besides, the visible effects on people's livelihood, global warming is predicted to have a strong and adverse impact on human health. Such global scenario can drastically alter rainfall pattern and risk water and food supplies for millions. Thus, quite aptly, this webinar has been entitled Environment, Food, Health Nexus under Changing Global Scenario. I do believe that concerted efforts from all stakeholders from various walks of life have a responsibility to ensure a sustainable and nourishing societal growth. In this endeavor, the scientists and policy formulators will guide us in achieving the perfect harmony between man and the environment. These aspects also brings to the fore the importance of food and nutrition in our lives. Food is not just what we eat, but it is also the only source of various vital nutrients and energy to sustain a healthy, functioning life. Moreover, it comes as no surprise that the food, as we know, is an outcome of a complex matrix of biomolecules, minerals, ions, and water that needs to be balanced and nourishing. At the same time, while the environment around us is in a constant state of flux and the demand of modern lifestyle is also changing, we need to retain and revamp our model of food production and consumption to match with the changing needs for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Our experts here, who have so gracefully consented to enlighten us with their domain of expertise, will help us to understand the purview of food science, environment, and health, and the intricate relationship between them. It also elates me to note that this webinar and this initiative reflects the thirst of knowledge and the zeal to solve complex social and entrepreneurial challenges that is in sync with the spirit of science that we try to inculcate at Cologne University. I wish the organizers my gratitude and best wishes for organizing this very important and relevant scientific event. Also, I take this opportunity to thank all the distinguished speakers for sparing their very valuable time from their very busy schedule to support us in our initiatives, in addition to enlightening us. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Dean of Science, Professor Keka Sarkar ma'am, for your encouraging and wonderful words. Now, I would like to quote famous American novelist and poet Wendell Berry. He said, "If we cannot afford to take good care of the land that feeds us, we are in an insurmountable mess." Now, I would like to invite our beloved senior Professor B.P. Jana, founder of International Center for Ecological Engineering and Department of Ecological Studies, to enlighten us with his wonderful words. Sir?
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Manoj Kumar Shandal, Kalyani University, Dean, Faculty of Science, Professor K.K. Sarkar, Professor Jayanto Kumar Vishwas, Dr. Jyotindranath Bhakta, Dr. Susmita Lahiri, Dr. Sushil Kumar Mondol, Dr. Mujumdar, Dr. Joy Mujumdar, and then maybe others, maybe there our another faculty, Dr. Sujoy Bagh, and invited speakers and delegates who are present over there for this today's international seminar. In fact, I am very much happy and congratulate the organizers to organize such a wonderful webinar on NEXUS, food, environment, and human health. In fact, this very term, NEXUS, is a common thing in our daily life. We have to link each other. A kind of coordination has to be made with each other for our livelihood. For example, today we have organized the webinar, that is the Department of Ecological Studies, Department of Ecological Studies, Environmental Engineering, and Food and Nutrition. This is a nexus. This is a nexus. That means we have to live together. Unless we make a nexus, we cannot live. And the main criminal of breaking this nexus is the climate change. As Professor Sarkar, K.K. Sarkar has already told that the disastrous effects of greenhouse effects and other things. So actually they are trying to destroy this type of nexus, the harmonical coordinations among us. So we have to face this challenge because we cannot stop our development. We can't ignore our development, and at the same time, we cannot ignore our environment. So development and environment, they must be integrated in such a manner that we can go to a sustainable development without damaging each other. This is the spirit of ecological engineering. That is a mutual understanding between industries and environment. In fact, this is very much common in our daily life. So I am very much sure that this webinar will certainly bring out a wonderful discussion. But most of the things which needs to be done, that is at the ground outreach program. This is the outreach program. Unless we do this one, it is really futile. This has to be done only through the public awareness and training, capacity building, so that we have to make a strong linkage between our academic bodies and our rural development sectors, so that we'll be able to convey our real message or research work which we have done that can be useful to the grassroots level. This is my this is my thinking about the real development, and I think Professor Sannal can think of it seriously so that he can really think about the cooperation and collaboration with different organizations in order to disseminate our knowledge at the grassroots level and different corners so that real development can take place. Thank you so much for your kind patience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Jana sir, for your very knowledgeable words and encouraging us to carry on through this seminar. Now, I would like to invite Professor Jayanto Kumar Bishwas, my senior colleague of Department of Ecological Studies, to deliver his speech as Joint Secretary. Sir, center stage is yours.
Thank you, Jayit. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Manush Kumar Sannal, sir. Honorable Professor Gautam Pal, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Dean Science, Professor K.K. Sarkar, Professor B.B. Jana, sir, distinguished dignitaries, esteemed speakers, and dear participants. It's my immense pleasure and privilege to deliver the introductory thematic address. In this webinar, the purpose is to prepare the platform, national webinar on environment, food, health, nexus under changing global scenario, which is being jointly organized by the Department of Ecological Studies and the Department of Food and Nutrition of Poland. On an anatomical examination of the central theme of the webinar, we get some basic components: environment, food. Here the environment starts with soil and water. Soil is the fountain of energy flowing through a circuit of life, comprising plants and animals, thus serving as a great connector of our life. Soil and water both are the living blood of the earth, supporting food security. It is our external metabolism, the source of the elemental pentagon of life. To be precise, plant life, that is carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And food is the only as healthy as the soil or water in which it is grown. Therefore, soil and water must be totally free from contaminants and toxics, although it is very difficult to get, but level. Else, the cost will be borne upon the health of all organisms, including human. You are what you eat. See how health begins in the environmental media. Spoiled with contaminants, it eats your health, your vitality. Sickness is the vengeance of nature for the violation of the laws of Mother Nature. Health is the first wealth, the greatest of human blessings. The Asian traditional knowledge that teaches us life is tied up with energy and with the human being as an inseparable part of nature and of the cosmos, that is the universe. In everything, there is Tao, comprising two opposing and complementary forces called Yang, which coexist in a harmonic balance in healthy people. Broken, illness develops. Good health the fountain of health. Food is common ground, the ingredient that binds all of us together, with us, as well as with other organisms. It is not just calories, it is information. Information means information about the quality or its impurity. Therefore, food is supposed to give us nourishment, but sometimes it gives us diseases. The food you eat can be the safest form of medicine. It can also be the slowest form of poison. Therefore, food is the burning question. Nutrition is the master key to human health. Thus, food calls for the food for thought. But what we see, human life is now haunted. Hazards, most of which are invited by us. Industrialization, agricultural modernization, urbanization, these three mouthfuls and the three processes that pump toxins into the environment. We are indeed living in a toxic world, living with an endless list of hazardous, starting from metals and metalloids, persistent organic pollutants or polychlorinated hydrocarbons, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and so forth. We are indeed carrying the toxic legacies, the poison futures. Even the nutrients, they can be proved nuisance. In the way the adage goes, too much of a good thing is also bad. Take one example, nitrogen. Nitrogen is the most unreliable and unsociable element. For nitrogen plays a dual role like Brahma. It serves as the preserver of health like Vishnu, same time in excess as a destroyer like Shiva. The present convergence of crisis that we are passing through in soil, water, food, energy, climate, all spheres of environment is a birth crisis, expelling us from the old world into a new, seeking the paradigm shift, and all attributed to our inheritance of the industrial, synthetic, modern ways of life, where human appears as the most dominating force, even rivaling the forces of nature in the epoch of Anthropocene. Change is no longer a doomsday prophecy, it is a reality. Reality, we are facing a stark reality that has set in motion a cascade of unexpected changes in all ecosystems, be it soil, water, or the greatest public health threats all ever encountered by humanity in an unprecedented pace and scale. A terrible, trying and testing time, COVID-19 global pandemic, which many scientists think is the fallout of breaking some critical and biodiversity with their hosts. And what we see, this is actually courtesy human beings. The Homo sapiens sapiens, will the sapiens, the so-called wise human, will understand when the planet Earth is down with fever, when the Earth is sick, polluted, predated, and plundered. Human health is impossible. To heal ourselves, we must heal our planet. And to heal our planet, we must heal ourselves. Here comes the environment nexus. Human civilization is in deep trouble now. Over the last few decades rather, we have created an unsustainable food production bubble based on over-pumping of aquifers, over-plowing of land, over-injecting of fertilizers, over-spraying of pesticides, and overloading of atmosphere with greenhouse gases. Our Dean has pointed out the build-up of in the atmosphere. The same tone we have heard from our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. The contaminants in soil and water that can cross the boundaries. They can walk along the food chain, get bioaccumulated, and some even be biomagnified, which can spoil the spirit and essence of food. This again can change the chemistry of life processes, leading to that degradation of our health, breaking the balance of yin and yang that I have already stated as the opposed and complementary forces which maintain the health. We have been mortgaging our health, the health of our future generation, to realize economic and developmental gains and to satisfy the consumerist appetite by unsustainably exploiting and spoiling nature's resources. Human civilization has flourished. Okay, we can permit to certain extent, but now what we see, now it risks substantial health effects from the degradation of nature's life support system, nature's safety net for the humanity, for all life forms. It's a right to safe, healthy, and nutritious food. It is right time to right our wrongs and ensure safety and food security. Eco-friendly culture, each and every one of the food chain, every member of this food supply chain must create a culture where food quality will earn the paramount position, the highest significance. There is an unbreakable bond between human health and environmental health. It is again extended in the grand concept of One Health. Now the UN is promoting. One Health concept promotes soil health, plant health, animal health, human health continuum through food security and food safety. It means the health of soil, plant, animal, and human is one and indivisible. The question of eco-ethics and environmental justice, that will be definitely one of our esteemed speaker, Professor Obhi Gupta, will enlighten us. You cannot achieve environmental security and environmental safeguard, same time human development, without addressing the basic issues of health and nutrition. We must have to change our present consumerist style and to build a biospheric consciousness to promote planetary health for ensuring sustainability, and the sustainability in environment, sustainability in food, sustainability in health, health for all and health of all, including human beings. We are happy to have with us today's eminent speakers, Professor Torit Rai Chaudhary and Professor Uvto from Assam University. A glimpse of the foodscape, the environmental scenario at the provincial to planetary level that are affecting human health of the present generation and carrying critical connotations for the future of the future generations. Professor Rai on state groundwater scenario, food chain contamination, mitigation strategies, while Professor delivered his lecture on COVID-19 pandemic, food security, and xenobiotic contamination perspective. We are immensely grateful to all the esteemed speakers, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, and Dean Sir, other dignitaries for their kind presence in this seminar to make it a successful one. Hope the webinar will provide a bright platform for vibrant and meaningful exchange of ideas. Let us all be enlightened from the deliberations of the esteemed speakers. With these words, I thank you all for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Professor Jayanta Kumar Bishop, sir, HOD, Department of Ecological Studies, for your inspirational and intelligent words to formally address the scope and focus of this webinar. Now, our technical session will start. As once in COP24 summit in Poland, famous actor and former governor of California, Sir Arnold Schwarzenegger, mentioned that I have starred in lots of science fiction movies, and let me tell you something. Climate change is not science fiction. This is a battle in real world. It is impacting us right now. As Professor Torit Roy Chaudhary still not joined us, I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, to bear with us and wait for the arrival of Professor Roy Chaudhary. Please bear with us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, from the organizing committee, I would like to propose a 10-minute break, and we will join sharply at 12 for the technical session to listen to Professor Torit Raichodhuri's wonderful words. You can remain in this meeting, or you can rejoin at 12.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
জয়জিৎ স্যার জয়েন করেছেন।
Welcome back. Professor Roy Chaudhuri has joined this webinar, and I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Sushil Kumar Mondal, to formally introduce Professor Torit Roy Chaudhuri of School of Environmental Sciences Studies, Jadavpur University.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayjit Mojumdar, for giving me the opportunity to introduce a great academician and renowned scientist, Professor Torit Roy Chaudhuri. Pleasure and honor to introduce Professor Torit Roy Chaudhuri. Professor Roy Chaudhuri is a professor of Environmental Studies, Faculty of Interdisciplinary Studies, Law and Management, Jadavpur University. After completion his master degree in chemistry and PhD from Jadavpur University in Science, Professor Roy Chaudhuri spent 6 years in National Institute of Health Science, Tokyo, Japan, for postdoctoral research studies under several prestigious international research fellowships like Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, JSPS, Ministry of Education, and Eco Frontier Fellowship, Ministry of Environment, Government of Japan. At present, he is the senior faculty member of School of Environmental Studies, Jadavpur University. Dr. Roy Chaudhuri has extensively studied R&D activities on ground arsenic contamination issues in West Bengal, India, and Bangladesh. Another part of Ganga, Meghna, Brahmaputra plan of India, Dr. Roy Chaudhuri also focused his research studies on human health risks from several other groundwater contaminants like fluoride, nitrate, uranium, etc., their impacts on the environment, and behavioral measurements in domestic and community level. Dr. Roy Chaudhuri has significantly contributed to the water quality evaluation and water management in rural and urban India, published many scientific research papers in peer-reviewed high-impact international, national journals like Nature, Environmental Health Perspectives, Science of the Total Environment, food and chemical toxicology, chemosphere, environmental geochemistry, and health and ecotoxicology and environment safety. Analyst, molecular nutrition, food research, journal of hazardous material, applied organometallic chemistry, bioremediation, toxicology, environmental pollution, exposure and health, environmental science and pollution research, applied organometallic chemistry, current science, Indian Journal of Chemical Society, and chapters in national and international books like Springer, Springer, Elsevier, Taylor, Francis, Wiley, etc. Dr. Raitoghri has participated in many national and international seminars, workshop conferences, and contributed significantly as a keynote speaker. He is involved in research collaboration national level with IIT, NIT, ISER, CSIR, etc., and international academic and research institutes like Noan Technological University, Singapore, Newcastle University, Australia, and Stanford, United Kingdom. I cordially invite to deliver your speech, sir, on state groundwater scenario, food chain contamination, and possible mitigation strategies. I believe that your experience and endowment will add an important dimension to this international webinar. Your remarks as keynote speaker would set the tone perfectly for our webinar. Sir, please, your speech.
So very good noon to all of you. So I'm directly going to my slide. So is it visible? Is it audible? Am I audible?
Yeah. Everything is okay.
Yeah. So very good noon to all of you. So at first I want to thank to the Department of Ecological Studies and Department of Food and Nutrition, University of Kolani, for giving me the opportunity to present our work today. Especially I want to thank Professor Jayanta Kumar Bishas because he invited and it is very difficult to refuse him within my very busy schedule. So my today's research topics that is entitled State Groundwater Scenario, Food Chain Contamination, and possible mitigation strategies, particularly highlighting that this severe issues that is going on for last 30 years, considering the groundwater arsenic contamination episode in West Bengal and other parts of India, and later on several other contaminants that was listed like fluoride contamination, nitrate contamination, and today through my presentation, so I'll try my best to highlight all these burning issues and its impact on the food chain, and finally health risk assessment, and finally what is the mitigation strategies we can follow to come out from this adverse situation. So let us see the groundwater arsenic contamination scenario. When the first report from West Bengal, that was during 1983, only 2 blocks have been identified, namely Barasat located in North 24 Parganas and Baruipur located in South 24 Parganas, where groundwater have been contaminated with arsenic. That was during 1983. Only 2 blocks have been identified from West Bengal. And this was the groundwater arsenic contamination scenario in Ganga, Meghna, Brahmaputra plain during 1983. So other than these 2 blocks located in West Bengal, so there was no report of groundwater arsenic contamination scenario in overall Ganga, Meghna, Brahmaputra plain during 1983. And this is the present groundwater arsenic contamination scenario in West Bengal. As per our report, School of Environmental Studies, Jalapur University, 148 blocks from 14 districts have been identified with groundwater above its recommended value in drinking water, that is 10 microgram per liter. And out of these 14 districts, 9 districts have been identified with severe arsenic contamination problem. out of these 9 districts, 6 districts, namely Malda, Murshidabad, Nadia, North 24 Parganas, South 24 Parganas, and Calcutta, these 6 districts are located on the east bank of river Bhagirathi, and 3 other districts, namely Bardhaman, Howrah, and Hooghly, have been located on the west part of the river Bhagirathi. So apart from these 9 districts, we have identified groundwater arsenic contamination above its recommended value, that is 10 microgram per liter, in 5 more districts. On all these 5 districts are located in North Bengal, namely Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, Coachbihar, North Dinajpur, and South Dinajpur. This is the present groundwater contamination scenario. When we started the journey, it was only limited to 2 blocks, Baruipur and Barasat, during 1983. And this is the present contamination scenario in 2021, 148 blocks, covering 14 districts. And this is the present groundwater contamination scenario in entire Ganga Meghna Brahmaputra plain at present, starting from Allahabad Kanpur track to Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bangladesh, and all the 7 northeast hilly states have been identified with groundwater which crosses its recommended value of arsenic in drinking water. So School of Environmental Studies is associated with this kind of years for near about last 30 years. The first problem, the first case, late Professor Khitish Chandra Saha. He was a medical doctor of Kolkata School of Tropical Medicine. So he was a dermatologist. So that person diagnosed first time the arsenicosis related issues in West Bengal. So that was the journey. Later on, late Professor Dipankar Chakraborty, who was also my PhD supervisor, so he extensively studied on these issues, covering mainly monitoring of groundwater arsenic scenario, not only in West Bengal, in other parts of India as well as in Bangladesh. So these 2 persons, so I want to provide my biggest respect behind the scenario highlighted to the media, and that's why many researchers, many scientists, many students are doing their research extensively on these issues. So as per the report, other than our publications in peer-reviewed high-impact international journals, so news media and electronic media, they oftenly used to cover our news. See this one reported in the news media Puber column, arseniker কবলে রাজ্যের 100টি ব্লক ক্ষতি করছে মানব দেহে. So those who are not Bengali here present, just for their information, just I want to translate it. Approximately 100 blocks located in West Bengal, which are suffering from groundwater arsenic contamination scenario, and it is affecting the health effect. So this is our report, School of Environmental Studies, Jadavpur University. So just for your information, this is not updated research information. As per our latest research report, 148 blocks from 14 districts where groundwater is contaminated with arsenic above its recommended value in drinking water. So apart from consumption of arsenic through drinking water, so that was limited approximately 20 years before. Nowadays, the biggest problem is its entry in food chain, because the same contaminated water in several districts the farmer use for cultivation. And during this cultivation period, particularly the paddy plant, you know the cultivation system in West Bengal, the paddy plant, 60% of the cultivation period of paddy cultivation, the fields are waterlogged with arsenic. So during this cultivation period, a substantial amount of arsenic is deposited on soil, and plant starts to accumulate arsenic in their body system. So naturally, a part of arsenic we can expect in crops and vegetables cultivated using arsenic contaminated water. So this, you see, these 2 reports, one was published in Hindustan Times and another one was published in HMI. This based on our research reports. Kolkata's vegetables, rice and flour high on arsenic, says top university. Kolkatar Bajare arsenic thaba. That means arsenic is entered in Calcutta food market. Let us see some of the contamination scenario in several states of West Bengal, several districts of West Bengal, like Murshidabad district. So if we consider the Murshidabad district, Murshidabad has 26 blocks. Out of these 26 blocks, we have found, as per our report, out of 26 blocks, 25 blocks have been identified with groundwater arsenic contamination above its recommended value. Consider the district Malda is Malda. Out of 15 blocks, 13 blocks have been identified with groundwater arsenic contamination above its recommended value. And the most interesting point is, you see the asterisk mark here. So this mark clearly indicates the presence of arsenical skin lesions of the local inhabitants. You see, so this means how much toxic this substance is. Not only it is limited in groundwater, this groundwater was majorly used for drinking purposes for last 30 years approximately. And after consumption of this toxic metalloid, it creates several health effects on the local inhabitants. Let us see the condition of North 24 Parganas districts. North 24 Parganas has 22 blocks. Out of 22 blocks, all the 22 blocks with groundwater arsenic contamination episode. Let us see the condition of Nadia districts. Nadia has 17 districts, all the 17 districts. So where you were located, that Nadia district, that is worst contaminated with groundwater arsenic contamination episode, covering all the blocks in Nadia district, and several blocks have been identified with arsenical skin lesions. Now the biggest question is, after knowing all about this fact that groundwater might be contaminated, and it is proved, not might be, that groundwater is contaminated in arsenic in several parts of West Bengal, why still groundwater withdrawal is so frequent? So this is the biggest question. So things are that groundwater is available throughout the year at shallow depth. Just after installation of one pipe and one filter, that is equivalent 20 feet plus 6 feet, 26 feet groundwater is available throughout the year. And the local inhabitants, they are able to bear this amount of cost for installation of one pipe and one filter. So this is the biggest problem. So if you go back 30 years before, I think you could remember that during that time surface water was majorly used for drinking and other purposes. But due to the other related infections, so people have shifted using surface water to groundwater sources whenever they have been experienced that just after installation of one pipe and one filter groundwater is available. So they have started to use the groundwater sources. Let us see, this is one of the very important observation. As per our report, arsenic initially increases up to a certain depth below the ground level, approximately 40 meters. That means near about 130 feet. So arsenic concentration initially increases below ground level, approximately 40 meters, then decreases with increase of the depth. So this is the reason why shallow aquifer is mostly contaminated with arsenic. And this was published might be 21 years before in the world-renowned journal Nature by my name Raichaudhuri et al. 1999. And later on, we have identified several other important issues. You see this scenario. As per our observation, we have found arsenic concentrations in many tube wells had been increased 5 to 20 folds within a span of 3 to 7 years. So what I told, arsenic concentrations in many tube wells had been increased 5 to 20 folds within a span of 3 to 7 years. That clearly proves that suppose once a tubewell is safe with respect to arsenic, that does not mean it will remain safe forever. So with time being, maybe arsenic can enter in the same aquifer system. Let us see the agricultural irrigation system in West Bengal to meet the food demands of the increasing population in Bengal Delta. The growing season has been expanded from 1 or 4 to 5 crops per year, and rainwater alone can no longer meet the water demand of such intensive agriculture, since only limited rainfall occurs during the dry season. And another important thing is boro cultivation, which is nothing but summer season cultivation, which requires huge amount of water. So apart from drinking, cooking, other household purposes, most of the agricultural system still to date is dependent on groundwater withdrawal. As a result, groundwater withdrawal is still in a heavy amount still to date. Let us see the rice cultivation practice in West Bengal. Just producing 1 kilogram of rice, 2,000 to 3,000 liters of water is required. Just imagine. And plants never ask this amount of arsenic. This is the mismanagement, misplanning. So just producing 1 kilogram of rice, 2,000 to 3,000 liters of water. And this water is coming not through any surface water bodies, not through rainwater harvesting system. The farmers are frequently taking out water from underground aquifer system and used for their cultivation. If you see just a single block Deganga, located in North 24 Parganas district, 6.4 tons of arsenic is withdrawn, considering all the shallow tube wells used for agricultural irrigation per year. So 6.4 tons of arsenic is withdrawn from all the shallow tube wells used for irrigation purposes in Deganga block. And this amount of arsenic is deposited on the agricultural land soil. So naturally, plants will start to accumulate a part of arsenic from the deposited arsenic on agricultural land or paddy land soil. So we can expect is an accumulation of arsenic in plant body system, and that was happened actually. So at this moment, we can say ingestion of drinking water is not only the elevated source of arsenic. Ingestion of agricultural fields with arsenic contaminated groundwater has led to arsenic buildup in soil with consequent elevation of arsenic in crops grown up on these soils. And from our extensive research reports considering different districts, we have found the presence of considerable amounts of arsenic in different kinds of crops and vegetables. You see, these are the examples of 2 districts, Nadia district and Murshidabad, and all kinds of cultivated crops and vegetables starting from rice grain. We have found considerable amount of arsenic. And all the reports what I am showing today, 98% are based on our own findings and published in peer-reviewed high-impact international journals, and all the references have been placed on the bottom side of each slide. And problem is the arsenic that was identified in crops and vegetables. That was inorganic arsenic. That means inorganic arsenic means arsenite and arsenate. That is most toxic and carcinogenic in characters. So for your information, on the environment, on the earth surface, arsenic may exist in its two different kinds of forms. One is inorganic arsenic that is toxic and carcinogenic, and another one is organic arsenic that is totally non-toxic. And organic arsenic is available in sea environment. Every day we used to consume considerable amount of organic arsenic through consumption of shrimps, lobster, crabs, etc. But that is not toxic, so that will not make any kind of adverse health effect on human body system. But the things is the crops and vegetables which is cultivated by using arsenic contaminated water, these crops and vegetables contribute inorganic arsenic. You see, as per our research report, inorganic arsenic contributes approximately 90% of the total arsenic. This HPLC chromatogram of arsenic species in different kinds of foodstuffs clearly indicates the presence of arsenic 3 and arsenic 5. This is the example of rice grain cultivated in West Bengal. This is an example of a vegetable leaf. You see the presence of arsenic 3 and arsenic 5. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
So everything is perfect, isn't it? So this is going to be
Everything
the
is okay,
burden
fine.
apart from consumption of arsenic contaminated water, might be after highlighting all these issues through different publications and in news medias and electronics medias, from School of Environmental Studies, Jalop University, maybe policymakers or governments or local panchayats, they made some mitigation strategies either by installation of deep wells or arsenic removal system, or in some places supplement of treated surface water system. But this is unavoidable circumstance. Even sitting in Kolkata, I am located in North Calcutta. Whatever rice grain I am consuming in my daily life, whatever crops and vegetables I am consuming in my daily life, that is somewhat contaminated with arsenic, because those crops and foodstuffs are cultivated in those arsenic, mostly in those arsenic exposed area where farmers use arsenic contaminated water for cultivation. So this is the biggest burden and challenge to the researchers and scientists, how to mitigate this problem, how to come out this problem. You see the difference, this right hand bar diagram, these rice grains were cultivated during post-monsoonal cultivation with monsoonal, with rainwater. And left hand bar diagram, this was cultivated, I'm sorry, this right-hand side bar diagram, these rice grains, different kinds of rice cultivars were cultivated during pre-monsoon cultivation. You see higher accumulation of arsenic because this cultivation system was entirely dependent on groundwater. And this monsoonal cultivation was dependent only on rainwater. Apart from on the initial phase of monsoonal cultivation, due to insufficient rain, the farmers used to use some amount of groundwater for the initial phase of monsoonal cultivation, but majorly is contributed but rainwater. So as a result, you can see the difference. Much higher accumulation of arsenic has been observed in pre-monsoonal cultivation compared to the post-monsoonal cultivation. And this research report was published in Journal of Hazardous Materials by my student, by my unit, Choudhury et al. 2020. Let us see, this is one of the another very important observation. So we have seen from our observation that in village level, in rural environment of West Bengal, we have found higher accumulation of arsenic in parboiled rice grain compared to the sand rice grain. Parboiled rice grain means siddho chaul, what we consume in our daily system, and sand rice grain means atop chal. So From our observation, we have found higher accumulation of arsenic in parboiled rice grain compared to the sun rice grain. So after an investigation in details, we came to the conclusion that after harvesting the paddy grain, so just for I want to highlight the information for your knowledge. Just after cultivation of the paddy grain, after dehusking, the rice grain that is available, that is sand rice grain, atop chal. Without dehusking the whole paddy grain, the farmers used to follow a two-way boiling process for parboiling. And during this parboiling process, the farmers again use their contaminated groundwater from their domestic cellular wells for parboiling. So during this parboiling process, two-way parboiling process, that tube water that is contaminated with arsenic contributes some amount of arsenic to the parboiled rice grain. So that is why in our observation, we have found higher accumulation of arsenic in Siddho chal compared to the Atop chal. So all these research reports are based on our recent research publication. This was published in Chemosphere 2018. You see what I told you, apart from public publications in peer-reviewed international journals, we used to highlight our research in news medias and electronics medias just to send a message to the local policymakers and government levels, and just as a part of awareness program for the entire mass. You see arsenic contamination in paddy is rising in Bengal, say study published in the Hindu. Siddho chale arsenic ঢুকছে শরীরে, published in এই সময়. And another interesting thing, the rice grain that is contaminated with arsenic, we cannot consume raw rice grain. What we consume after its cooking. So there are several factors, raw rice grain and cooked rice grain. There are several factors. So during this entire cooking process, suppose there is an addition of water. Water is required for cooking rice grain. So during this cooking process, is there any impact on the cooked rice grain? Is there any flow of arsenic from raw rice grain to cooked rice grain? In our observation, we have found if rice grain is cooked with if rice grain that is contaminated with arsenic is cooked with low arsenic contaminated water, a substantial amount of arsenic is released from raw rice grain, and it is released through discarded water. Similarly, if the water that is used for cooking purpose, that is moderately arsenic contaminated water, a substantial amount of arsenic here is also released, but not at that rate of that of low arsenic contaminated water. But the scenario becomes completely reverse if the water that is used for cooking purpose is highly arsenic contaminated. In that case, this water contributes additional arsenic to the cooked rice grain. So this slide clearly shows whatever I told in my previous slide. You see, if rice grain is cooked with low arsenic contaminated water, there is a substantial decrease of arsenic from raw rice grain to cooked rice grain. If the rice grain is cooked with moderately arsenic contaminated water, there is a decrease, but not at that rate of low arsenic contaminated water. But if the cooking water is highly arsenic contaminated water, it increased the load of arsenic from raw rice grain to cooked rice grain. This was published in the journal Science of the Total Environment. And considering the danger that is coming out through rice grain, only consumption of rice grain, which is going to be the biggest environmental concern nowadays, and it is not limited to the arsenic exposed area. Even for apparently controlled area or controlled area, it is going to be a biggest burden, because rice grain is our staple crop. And suppose in my case, I am sitting in Calcutta, and Calcutta is not producing any kind of crops and vegetables. So for the crops and vegetables, we have to dependent on the other districts. So after cultivation of crops and vegetables in those particular districts, so that crops and vegetables were transported to Calcutta market. So as a result, not only transported of crops and vegetables, it is transporting also arsenic to Calcutta's market. And through our daily dietary system, we are even consuming a considerable amount of arsenic through different kinds of crops and vegetables, mainly rice grain, which is our staple food crop. And considering the health risk assessment, we have found in our system, in our research, that considering the rice grain only, carcinogenic risk exists everywhere. Considering exposed population, considering apparently controlled population, considering controlled population. We have studied on two different aged populations, adults and children. So carcinogenic risk exists through consumption of rice grain. Considering the non-carcinogenic risk, these also exist, but not at that rate of carcinogenic risk. In this case of non-carcinogenic risk, particularly the adults from exposed and apparent control areas, there is a clear evidence of presence of non-carcinogenic risk. But the danger is the presence of carcinogenic risk from the entire population. We have studied from different exposed area, not only exposed, apparently controlled, and even controlled inhabitants. We have found the presence of carcinogenic risk through consumption of rice grain only. Let us see the condition of a school located in Boshirat 1 block, Chokkamardanga school. Boshirat 1 is severely affected. What I told, out of 22 blocks in not 24 Parganas, all the 22 blocks, groundwater is contaminated with arsenic. So Boshirat 1 is severely contaminated with arsenic. And this particular school is located in Boshirat 1 block, namely Chokkamardanga Pre-Primary School. So whenever we visited first time, approximately 5 years before, the school campus had 3 tube wells, and all the 3 tube wells contributing significant amount of arsenic. One was contributed 550 microgram per liter. That means 55 times higher than the recommended value. Second one contributed 350 microgram per liter. You see the condition. This school tube well was used for the drinking purposes of the school children. Not only drinking purpose, this school tube well was used for midday meal preparation. And we have studied extensively on a group of these school children, and we have found the presence of considerable amount of arsenic in their body system, starting from their urine sample, hair and nail sample. Just for your information, presence of arsenic in urine, it clearly proves the acute toxicity. After consumption of arsenic through drinking water, 70% arsenic is excreted through urine within next 3 years. That means if we found arsenic in urine sample, that clearly proves that this population is consuming arsenic contaminated water. So apart from urine arsenic accumulation, there is a substantial accumulation of arsenic in hair and nail. These are called biomarkers of arsenic, because hair and nail have keratin type of cells which have sulfido SH group, which can easily bridge arsenic related compounds in their system. That's why apart from urine, hair and nail also can be considered as arsenic biomarkers. So we have found substantial amount of arsenic in different kinds of biomarkers considering urine, hair, and nail. We have studied the rice samples from the school children. We have collected rice grain samples from the domestic level of the school children. We have found substantial amount of arsenic in those collected rice grain samples. You see, this was highlighted in Anandabajar Putrika, Poruar Shorire Bish. That means poison is inside the school children. The school authority did not have any kind of information. They were not at all aware. This is the biggest problem. Even after focusing all these issues for last 30 years, we are not aware. This is the biggest problem nowadays. Let us see another school located in Gaighata block, North 24 Parganas district. The school tubewell contributed 104 microgram per liter of arsenic. This tubewell water was used for drinking purpose, was used for midday meal preparation. So where do we stand? Where do we stand? This report was highlighted in Hindu Bengal schools use contaminated water. So this is the present situation. আর্সেনিকের থাবা মিড ডে মিলে শরীরে বিষ বিপজ্জনক মাত্রায় so arsenic is entering in the school children's body system through midday meal preparation, but who cares? This is the biggest problem. And in this slide we have seen the risk assessment in school children through intake of drinking water and rice, considering only school children. This one indicates the risk through drinking water. This red mark indicates the risk through drinking water, and this red mark from exposed school children who are residing in arsenic exposed area. And this 4% indicates the risk on the school children who are residing in apparently controlled arsenic affected area. But you see the scenario completely becomes different in the case of consumption of rice grain. 55% risk is coming through consumption of rice grain, considering the school children residing in arsenic exposed area, whereas 45% risk is coming on the school children who are residing in apparently or controlled arsenic contaminated area. So you see the difference. So drinking water might contribute a significant amount of arsenic, but rice grain nowadays, this becomes an unavoidable circumstances for behind the consumption of arsenic and its related adverse health effect. Let us see the condition of Calcutta food market. We have collected rice grain samples from Calcutta food market, and we have found presence of arsenite and arsenate. And considering the cancer risk assessment, you see rice and other cereal products and vegetables collected from Calcutta food market, which are transported from those arsenic exposed area, cultivated using arsenic contaminated water, contributes significant amount of cancerous and non-cancerous risk. How is about the domestic animal? In our case, considering the human, we used to consume 3 to 4 liters of water in our daily life. But for a cow or buffalo, they used to consume 40 liters of water in their daily life. And this water they are consuming from the domestic tubewell. So as per the calculation, we have found these domestic cows and buffaloes in their daily life, they used to consume 18,000 microgram of arsenic. And in our very recent study published in the prestigious journal Environmental Geochemistry and Health, we have shown that further risk is coming through this domestic livestock. First of all, not only considering the intake of arsenic, then its excrete, and finally the human, we are dependent on several animal byproducts, starting from cow milk, starting from flesh, starting from egg. So after entering through all intake through all dietary substances, different kinds of fodders, these domestic livestock, they used to consume the foodstuffs that is mainly crop residues, starting from husk, starting from rice grain, starting from different other kinds of plant materials, which contribute significant amount of arsenic. So they are consuming significant amount of arsenic. In their excreta, starting from cow dung and arsenic accumulation in tail hair, we have found considerable amount of arsenic, followed by we have studied the different kinds of animal byproducts, cow milk, flesh, chicken, mutton, egg, etc. And we have found considerable amount of arsenic. So starting from drinking water, starting from crops and vegetables, starting from the staple crop rice grain, starting from now the animal byproducts. So in our daily system, we are consuming a considerable amount of arsenic, which is nothing but inorganic arsenic, arsenite and arsenate, which are most toxic and carcinogenic. So this clearly proves, you see, we have investigated this cultivation from domestic livestock, from different exposed area. We have studied from arsenic exposed area as well as controlled area. You see the difference. If we consider the water arsenic contribution, you see in the arsenic exposed area, this is much higher compared to the controlled area. If we consider the paddy straw, this contributes higher amount of arsenic to the domestic livestock from arsenic exposed area compared to the controlled area. And we have calculated the risk. Obviously, we have found maximum risk that is coming from drinking water, followed by rice grain, followed by cow milk, egg and chicken, and followed by mutton. So if we consider the drinking water and rice grain are only the dietary sources of arsenic, not like that. From our last research report, we now can conclude that apart from water or apart from consumption of rice grain or other vegetables, these animal byproducts can contribute a partial amount of arsenic to our daily dietary system. You see, this slide clearly shows this picture. Even we have collected sweet products from different sweet shops from arsenic exposed area. These sweets are prepared mainly from cow milk. You see, we have found considerable amount of arsenic in sweet juice, in sweet wet, curdled milk water, whole milk. So all these different kinds of fractions of milk contributes significant amount of arsenic. Considering these different kinds of animal byproducts, goat meat, chicken liver, chicken meat, boiled egg yolk, boiled egg white, goat meat, goat collected from cow milk, all these substances contribute significant amount of arsenic. This was published, what I told you, Environmental Geochemistry and Health, just few days earlier in 2021 from our group. This research report was published in the renowned magazine Outlook, A Can of Poison. This research report was published in the Bengali news media Bortoman, দুধ সহ সব প্রাণীজ খাদ্যদ্রব্যে উদ্বেগজনক মাত্রায় arsenic. That means considering not only milk plus other animal byproducts, as per the report of School of Environmental Studies, they reported the presence of considerable amount of arsenic. Now coming to the point of arsenic toxicity and human health effect, we have found considerable amount of arsenic in different biological tissues, considering urine, hair, and nail. We have found all kinds of arsenical skin manifestations in the exposed populations who consumed huge amount of arsenic. Arsenic is a slow poison. It will not kill you in a day or two. even after consumption, depending on the doses. It depends on how long it will take to create adverse health effects on your body system. Finally, carcinogen is the ultimate result. So all kinds of arsenical skin lesions, starting from spotted and diffuse melanosis, spotted and diffuse keratosis, whole body melanosis, chronic bronchitis, liver enlargement, dorsum, carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, all kinds of arsenical skin lesions have been identified from arsenic exposed areas. And these are some of the pictures of severe arsenical skin manifestation. Are millions in Ganga Meghna Brahmaputra plain already exposed to arsenic contaminated water, potentially at risk from cancer? Because this problem is not only limited to Bengal basin nowadays. What I told, that starting from Allahabad, Kanpur tract to Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bangladesh, on all the 7 northeastern hill states, groundwater is contaminated with arsenic. And the same groundwater used for drinking purpose, for cooking purpose, for cultivation purpose, and nowadays new thing has been added, arsenic entry through different kinds of animal byproducts. Different kinds of arsenical skin lesions as per our report. Arsenic toxicity and severity in Gaighata block located in North 24 Parganas district. Several of the victims have been died within last 2 years. You see this picture. He was Monotos Vishwas, suffering severely from arsenic toxicity, considering squamous cell carcinoma. You see, this is his report. This is his report. Suffering from squamous cell carcinoma. He died 2 years before due to arsenic toxicity. So who is responsible? This is my question. No doubt he consumed water from his domestic tube. Is it his fault? Who is taking the responsibility? So not only Monotos Vishwas, several others, many more examples are there. There was a family located in Ramnagar village, located in Baripur block, South 24 Parganas district. Late Alok Sarkar, when Alok Sarkar died, he was only 23 years old. And not only him, entire 17 family members of his family died due to arsenic toxicity. And the arsenic concentration we have identified in their tubewell water was 3,700 microgram per liter. That means 370 times higher than the recommended value of arsenic in drinking water. So who is responsible? The entire family has been vanished. What will be the future of this endangered population? We have found in our research report there is a direct relationship between nutritional status and arsenic toxicity. We have found that people with healthy nutrition suffer less from arsenic toxicity compared to undernourished people. But unfortunately, this did not work. Healthy nutrition was not available. In our report, 80% of the population of West Bengal and Bangladesh and most of the children would not suffer from arsenic toxicity if they could get better nutrition. Child malnutrition, this is a very important factor. So this entire population, apart from consumption of arsenic through different daily dietary substances, they are not nutritionally enriched. If that should be, that nutritional factor might fight against the arsenic toxicity system in their body system. You see this example, two particular micronutrients, selenium and zinc. They are important micronutrients as well as antitoxic to arsenic. We have found lesser amount of selenium and zinc in the cultivated crops and vegetables. So how they fight against the arsenic toxicity system? This is the latest research on arsenic and future danger. Exposure to arsenic in drinking water during early childhood or in utero has pronounced pulmonary effects, greatly increasing subsequent mortality in young adults from both malignant and non-malignant lung disease. And the robust impact of a mother's arsenic consumption on fetal gene expression as evidenced by transcript levels in newborn cord blood. So who is responsible? What is the fault of this newborn baby? He or she, that baby is carrying arsenic from his or her mother's body system. This is the latest research and this is going to be noted. Let us say, so we have crossed the arsenic magnitude and calamity and West Bengal in other parts of India. Now, let us see the fluoride contamination scenario in India. If we can consider the magnitude, particular considering the magnitude and calamity, it is much higher compared to the arsenic contamination scenario. 62 million people from 19 states in India, including 40 million people. And in one of our recent research publications, we have highlighted one reference from 19 states of India, considering Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, most of the South Indian states, and even the eastern states of India, considering Odisha, Bihar, Assam, and West Bengal, groundwater is contaminated with arsenic. And 201 districts we have identified with presence of higher level of fluoride in groundwater. And fluoride, another substance, it is not toxic, it is not carcinogenic, but it creates several adverse health effects after entering in body system above its recommended value in drinking water or through other food crops. It directly attacks the bone system. Calcium, it directly attacks calcium. Calcium, where calcium is present in interbody system, in bone, in teeth, so it can attack teeth. So that's why dental fluorosis is very common. It attacks the bone system and started to break down the bone. You see, this person is unable to walk because due to severe level of fluoride toxicity. You see, this person's leg has been folded several times. And this is the scenario. This is not the picture I am taking out from searching through Google search. This is the present scenario. If you visit Assam, if you visit Manipur, there are several evidences of these kinds of patients. Even we have worked extensively from some villages on Bihar, and we have published research papers, and we have found this kind of patient whose leg has been folded in several parts. So this kind of severity is present. Considering the fluoride contamination scenario, arsenic contamination scenario in West Bengal, this part is entirely contaminated with arsenic. You see the fluoride scenario, this part, mainly the western part of West Bengal, covering 3 particular districts, Bankura, Purulia, and Birbhum, groundwater is contaminated with fluoride. And recently we have identified in other districts also, namely Malda, North Dinajpur, South Dinajpur, and in our very recent study, we have identified higher level of fluoride from South 24 Parganas districts. That is closely located to Kolkata district. So fluoride contamination is now knocking the door. So this is going to be the another environmental disaster on coming days. Rajpur Sonarpur municipality, very closely located to Kolkata. This municipality has 35 wards. we have found presence of both arsenic and fluoride in groundwater from this municipality. Considering 35 wards, we have found 26 wards with having groundwater arsenic above its recommended value. We have found 9 wards with fluoride contamination above its recommended value, and this is located very closely to Kolkata. So who is giving you the guarantee that next time, usually Kolkata's groundwater is also contaminated with arsenic as per our report, School of Environmental Studies. So just I think time is just knocking the door. Maybe with time being Calcutta's groundwater, I am quite confident we'll get the considerable amount of fluoride from Kolkata groundwater system. You see, this is the different kinds of risk from arsenic and fluoride, considering the inhabitants of Rajpur Sonarpur municipality. So all kinds of health risk factors are present. Considering arsenic toxicity, carcinogenic risk is there, non-carcinogenic risk is there. Considering fluoride toxicity, non-carcinogenic risk is there for the entire mass residing in this municipality. This research report was recently published. Entry of fluoride in food chain cultivated in Bankura and Purulia districts, published in the reputed journal Frontiers in Environmental Science. Fluoride exposure and probabilistic health risk assessment through different agricultural food crops from fluoride endemic Bankura and Purulia districts of West Bengal in India. So water is contributing arsenic, water is contributing fluoride. Foodstuffs contribute arsenic, foodstuffs contribute fluoride. So where we stand, and this is the presence of fluoride in different kinds of cultivated crops and vegetables collected from this fluoride endemic districts, Bankura and Purulia. Cereals, pulses, non-leafy and leafy vegetables all contributed. This research report was published in Frontiers in Environmental Science from my unit, date all 2021. You see the contribution. You see the contribution of different kinds of foodstuffs, starting from cereals, pulses, non-leafy and leafy vegetables. If you consider the non-leafy vegetables, it contributes maximum fluoride to the daily dietary system, followed by rice grain or different other cereals. In all cases, and this study has been performed considering different aged populations, starting from children, adolescents, teenagers, and adults. So fluoride is coming through crops and vegetables. And we have calculated the health, we have calculated the hazard index coming through fluoride toxicity. At this moment, through consumption of different kinds of crops and fluoride enriched crops and vegetables, maybe hazard index is safe. But if we consider the lifetime non-cancer risk of hazard index, it crosses the recommended value of fluoride that is consumed by this entire population. Let us see the nitrate pollution in groundwater. This is an additional danger going to be, and it has been already established from our research studies. We have found considerable amount of nitrate in groundwater from 4 blocks of Nadia districts, namely Chapra, Navadvip, Krishnanagar 1 and Kaliganj. Recommended value of nitrate in drinking water is 45 milligram per liter. We have found much higher. Range is 45 to 57.6 milligram per liter from these blocks, Chapra, Navadvip, Krishnanagar 1 and Kaliganj. We have found higher level of nitrate in groundwater from Bardhaman districts, Bardwan 1, Ondal, Raniganj, Jamuria, Baraboni, Salanpur. So this higher amount of nitrate, it creates another type of adverse health effects. Just I am going to brief in my next slide. So considering the different water quality parameters starting from nitrate, you see this study was highlighted in the journal Groundwater for Sustainable Development. We have shown the presence of different kinds of toxic elements starting from arsenic, fluoride, nitrate, and uranium presence in Nodia groundwater. Only in the case of fluoride, Nodia groundwater is not contaminated with fluoride, but arsenic, all the 17 blocks is heavily contaminated with arsenic. Nitrate we have found in 4 blocks, and uranium still it is in safer zone. But due to the presence of excess amount of nitrate, nitrate is able to leach out uranium from its uranium-based minerals. So this research study was highlighted in this journal, and several type of risks are present considering arsenic, nitrate present in groundwater in the case of inhabitants of Nodia districts. And nitrate, in the previous cases, whatever I discussed so far, arsenic and fluoride, those were natural contamination. In the case of nitrate contamination, this is man-made, totally man-made due to excessive use of inorganic fertilizers like urea. So in system, urea used to convert finally to nitrate. And after entering nitrate through groundwater or through drinking water in human body system, nitrate is immediately reduced to nitrite. And this converted nitrite, it starts to react with iron plus 2 presence in hemoglobin. So iron plus 2 hemoglobin complex, nitrite used to react with iron plus 2, and immediately it converts iron plus 2 to iron plus 3. So natural iron plus 2 hemoglobin complex, this system is completely disturbed. And as iron plus 2 is converted to iron plus 3, so the hemoglobin part, this iron plus 2 hemoglobin part, that red color, as it converts to iron plus 3, so it converts to blue color. That is due to the formation of hemocyanin, or in other words, we can also tell it methemoglobin or blue baby syndrome. So this nitrate is very, very sensitive for baby. That is why this system, is we see the some kind of blue color system due to consumption of huge load of nitrate to daily dietary system. You see the chemical reaction is written here, nitrate to nitrite, and this nitrite directly attacks the iron plus 2 present in hemoglobin, and this converts to iron plus 3. That is nothing but the formation of the complex of methemoglobin. Nodiar 4 block nitrate report published in the daily news media এই সময় 24th February 2020. কৃষিতে ব্যবহৃত রাসায়নিক ভিলেন. This research report was published recently in বর্তমান পত্রিকা 10th August 2021. That means the different kinds of chemicals used as fertilizers in agricultural system, finally through leaching out, this nitrate is mixed with groundwater system, and whenever we taking out for drinking water purpose through tube-wells, we are directly consuming nitrate in our through our daily dietary system. So apart from arsenic, fluoride is there, nitrate is present here. This was published in the well-renowned Indian magazine Outlook. Groundwater nitrate, new concern for arsenic hit Bengal. So all these news media's reports based on our research reports. Considering the mitigation options, West Bengal has 2,000 millimeter annual rainfall, huge surface water body resources, considering rivers, ponds, oxbow lakes. What is its use? This is my question. What is its use? Having 2000 millimeter of annual rainfall, having huge surface water body resources. Nowadays, I think some work has been started in very minor level, like rainwater harvesting, like treatment of surface water bodies and supply for its drinking or cultivation purposes. But proper watershed management is badly required, because still to me, whatever I have been experienced after my involvement in last 25 years in this, on this severe environmental concern issues, still as per my view, we have seen the tip of the iceberg. Whatever arsenic is deposited on Bengal basin soil or Indian Ganga Meghna Brahmaputra soil, I think the next generation or next researchers then continue their research studies for next another 1,000 years. So this is a pity. Even after getting 75 years of independence, we are not able to provide safe drinking water to the inhabitants residing from different kinds of exposed area, considering its contamination, either arsenic, either fluoride, or either nitrate. Several existing technologies are available considering fluoride remediation, considering arsenic remediation, considering nitrate remediation. But problem is, as per my report, as per the report of School of Environmental Studies, the technologies that are developed that might be implemented in field level, but there was no proper monitoring system, no proper evaluation system. That's why even after installation of several removal plants might be there efficient for removal of arsenic and fluoride, but within a zone, they are losing their efficiency for removal of these toxic contaminants. You see, we published our research report, Ineffectiveness and Poor Reliability of Arsenic Removal Plants in West Bengal, published in Environmental Science and Technology. You see, this is the condition. This is the arsenic removal plant. Without proper monitoring, without proper evaluation, there was no proper checkup. So development of a technology in lab scale in one thing, and finally, whenever it will be certified that it is efficient to remove these different kinds of toxic contaminants, and after its implementation in field level, its monitoring, its evaluation is very important. That is not followed up. This is a pity. Even the god of wealth, Kuwait, would not waste his $3 billion to buy arsenic removal plants as we did in West Bengal. In village predominant India and Bangladesh, you see, these are the common message. In village predominant India and Bangladesh, even a highly successful technology may not succeed in rural areas unless there is an honest will of the politicians. It fits the rural circumstances and is well accepted by the rural mass. Development of such technology is only possible when a combination is made between bureaucrats, technocrats, and villagers with proper village level participation. It is not like the development of a technology in lab scale and just we will install in field level, no proper monitoring. It is not like that organization of several kinds of conferences, workshop, this and that throughout the year. This proper involvement, this proper monitoring, this willingness to come out from this kind of problem, this is very much important. That's why these kinds of problems are still existing, and as per my report, we have seen the tip of the iceberg, and I don't know how long it will be continued, because not only its contamination is limited to groundwater, it is entered in crops and other vegetable systems nowadays. So after working on so many mitigation strategies, considering arsenic removal plans considering different other removal systems, it seems to be the best mitigation strategy. That is reservation of surface water body in a proper way and its proper treatment before supplement to the exposed population. So this plant is located in Madhusudan Kati Gaighata block and it is working. We have evaluated several times. We monitor this water quality of this treated surface water and it works very finely. So that's why even after involvement for last so many years in this kind of evidences, this might be the best solution just through rainwater harvesting or treatment of surface water bodies. You see, what we don't have, East Kolkata wetland, Rosigbil, Kochbihar, Sundarban, Ahironbil. What is its use? So due to improper management, improper watershed management, improper agricultural system, the entire system of drinking or cultivation purpose is on the question mark. Several kinds of rainwater harvesting system. Maybe laws are there everywhere, wherever you will to implement it. In the case of multi-storied building in Calcutta, law is there. For a multi-storied building, you must need to arrange the rainwater harvesting system. But are we still following all this kind of system? Considering universities, colleges, are we maintaining this common protocol? Are you giving importance? Are you giving lesson to our next generation that how much important rainwater is? What we are doing? We are taking out water randomly from underground aquifer and used for drinking, cooking, and even cultivation purposes. Reduction of arsenic in vegetables and crops systems are there. So we can arrest arsenic in soil system so that it cannot enter in the plant system using different kinds of organic and inorganic amendments. Several microorganisms, they can act nicely, and intermediate ponding. Paddy plants never asked that we need logged water system during our cultivation. This is the worst example of agricultural management system. Israel, the country, they used to give each drop of water for their agricultural system. Singapore is a country who don't have their own water resource. They are dependent on Malaysia. So we need to give importance on each drop of water. Reduction of arsenic in vegetables and crops after using different kinds of organic amendments like farmier manure, vermicomposting, different kinds of inorganic amendments like ferrous sulfate. So these different kinds of amendments are able to arrest arsenic in soil plant system. You see, this picture clearly indicates cultivation under aerobic condition and cultivation under anaerobic condition. This black mark indicates that is anaerobic condition. That means paddy fields are waterlogged. You see, in each case, starting from its accumulation in different kinds of plant parts, you see higher accumulation has been occurred whenever we cultivated under flooded system or waterlogged system, and how folds higher it is compared to the anaerobic system. So this is the protocol we need to follow. It is not required. Paddy plants never ask that we need this a huge amount of water during our cultivation system. This is our very recent research publication published in the prestigious journal Ecotoxicology and Environmental Safety. We used potassium humate during rice seed germination, and we have found substantial development of arresting arsenic accumulation in plant system, in rice grain system just after using potassium humus as priming agent. So this kind of research studies is very important. The policymakers need to follow this kind of research studies. You see, this research report was highlighted in Bengali news media. Dhane arsenic bishrukte disha Bangali gobeshokde. This was based on our research report published in এই সময় potassium humus ধান গাছে কমাচ্ছে আর্সেনিকের কুপ্রভাব বর্তমান পত্রিকা. So apart from publishing our research reports in peer-reviewed journals, so its spreadness, this awareness is very important through publication in different news media. And we are not asking, we're asking to the news media. The news media are asking always to us what latest research you have. So that's why different kinds of news media, electronic media, so our research reports are frequently published. And whatever I told, awareness, you see in this picture, Dr. S.P. Sinarai is sitting here. He's the chairman of Fluoride Task Force, Government of West Bengal. Dr. K.J. Nath, he's the task force of Arsenic Fluoride Committee, Arsenic Task Force, Government of West Bengal. So Chairman K.J. Nath, Chairman S.P. Sinarai, they are representing the Task Force of Arsenic and Fluoride from government level. And this is a conference organized in Shonar Bangla, organized by the Sulabh International. He is the chairman of Sulabh, Mr. Bindeshwari Pathak, I think. He's the chairman. So this awareness is very important. Considering the ground, considering the water resource all over the world, you see ocean contributes 97.4%, whereas groundwater considering 1.05%. This is world scenario. So even after contributing so lesser amount through groundwater, we are dependent everything on groundwater, starting from drinking, cooking, other household, even cultivation system. It's time to tax groundwater use. Can we implement tax on withdrawal of groundwater? This important research report was published in the Hindu. And if we are not aware, if we do not come out from this situation, the day that will come, you see what is you are looking in the picture, tremendous water scarcity that was observed 2 years before in several South Indian states, South India cities, Madras, Bangalore, etc. If we are not careful about preservation of water body resources, slowly the effect will be.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. We are running behind our schedule.
I came to the last point.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So if we are not careful, slowly the effect will be exposed in such a way it is equivalent to many atomic explosions. Water, the elixir of life. Keep it out of politics. You see, we have learned a lot of things from Mahabharata. Bhishma on his deathbed, he asked for some water. Arjuna was ready to take out water from underground aquifer. Immediately it was refused, as this was, he told clearly, this water is not for drinking purpose. This is for natural balance. So what lesson we learned? What lesson we learned from our several epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita, and Veda? This is my entire unit, School of Environmental Studies. This is my contact, considering my email address and mobile number. So thank you very much. Maybe I am out of your scheduled time. I think I have crossed to just 1 hour. So I think my presentation, if it will be benefit, if it will be useful as a part of awareness program. So this is my work as a teacher, as a scientist, as a researcher, to motivate the persons, to motivate the researchers, to motivate the scenarios, to highlight the right message to the policymakers, to the local gram panchayats, so that they can start to do work, something for the betterment of the society and to the poor inhabitants who are the worst sufferers due to this worst groundwater arsenic, fluoride, or nitrate contamination problem in West Bengal and other parts of India. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Rayachowdhury, for your wonderful lecture. As we are people of University of Kolkata are from Nadia district, so we are suffering from the arsenic as well as the newly found nitrate contamination in the groundwater. Now the session is open for the discussion, and I will only take only 5 questions. And participants, you can raise your hands, and participants from the YouTube, you can type your question. One question came from YouTube. Partho Sharathi Dotto, he asked that if purified water from river Ganges, ongoing project in southern part of West Bengal, the only solution to avoid the risk of arsenic is the treating.
Yeah. So this might be the final solution. Whatever I told, West Bengal has 2,000 millimeter of annual rainfall and several surface water body resources. So not only considering the Ganges River, whatever different kinds of water bodies are available, maybe pond or river, so we need to use these surface water body resources after its proper treatment. This treatment is very important, because who told you that the surface water is not contaminated with other pollutants? Because, you know, due to the improper system, everything is improper. Maybe laws are there, but it is not properly followed. The industrial effluent, without its purification, it is discharged in the open surface water bodies resources. So this is the biggest problem. That's why, as per my suggestion, we can use surface water body, but after its proper treatment, so that it can be drinkable.
Rangita Das asked, will it be a way to defeat drink water contamination throughout the nation with huge amount of people can afford water purifier?
I did not follow. So could you please?
Will it be a way to defeat the drinking water contamination throughout the nation with a huge amount of people who cannot afford water purifier?
Yeah, water purifier, I think as per the economic status of our country, so I think it is limited to 5 to 10% of the entire population. So we never look out for water purification. So for its implementation, so I think we need to increase the economic status of the entire population of our country. And that is absolutely impossible. You know the current picture. So apart from implementation of water purifier, maybe, and plus there is no guarantee. Most of the companies, they are doing business for commercial purposes. They are saying that this purifier system is able to remove arsenic, able to remove fluoride, but there is no guarantee. As per our report, School of Environmental Studies, it needs a complete remediation strategy for its removal. Suppose people used to think after just boiling arsenic contaminated water, arsenic will be vanished from the water system. Not like that. It will be more concentrated. Same like chloride. So it needs completely separate kinds of mitigation strategies, and within that compact arsenic, within the compact water treatment system, I think it is very difficult to make all the things unitedly. So that's why I think purifying system is good, but it is limited to a certain number of population. For its considering wide mitigation strategy, we have to think for such a system, whatever I told several times, considering groundwater in mind, we never come out from this kind of solution. Never come out. We have to look out from some alternative way of water resources, and that is only considering rainwater harvesting and surface water, proper way of surface water restoration. I think so.
Sir, Devmando Gupta has a question. Sir, what will be the most effective as well as cost-friendly spot test to find out the existence of arsenic in groundwater, drinking water, if this is for the common people in common rural people?
Yeah, spot test. I mean, you want to highlight the field kit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it is really questionable about the detection limit, because the system what we use in laboratory scale, that is hydride, that is flow injection, hydride generation, atomic absorption spectrophotometer. Atomic absorption spectrophotometry method in our system, after its generation through hydride, we are able to detect arsenic at low as 3 ppb, that means 3 microgram per liter, whereas the recommended value of arsenic in drinking water is 10 microgram per liter. That means our system is very much sensitive to detect arsenic. We detect arsenic up to 3 microgram per liter. But considering this field kit type of system, maybe implemented 10 years before widely in Bangladesh and some parts of West Bengal, but it is unable to detect arsenic lower than 50 microgram per liter. So the concentration that is existing between 10 microgram per liter and 50 microgram per liter. So that will below detection limit. So how people will identify what is the arsenic status in their tubewell water sample. So this is the biggest burden for using field kits. So above 50 ppb, I think it will work. But in the case of low concentration of arsenic, it is questionable.
Nilakpal, switch on your mic and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for this so much elaborate presentation. I am a resident of the Nodia district, and I am watching this problem for a very long time. So, how can I tell or inform the rural people, those who don't understand this so much of scientific terms and technologies and these values? How can I?
How can you contribute to the society?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's my
If
question.
you are interested to do something for the society, please communicate with me. So I will guide you accordingly. So I must appreciate your willingness, power. That is from scientific level, from higher educated person. We have to show the path to the population. So
yes, sir.
your question is, I must appreciate. So if you want to do something, at least even if you are interested to do 1% for this endangered population, please keep in touch with me. I will direct you accordingly, give the direction accordingly. My contact number that is written, you please write down also, 89020344330. Did you follow me?
Yes, sir.
89020
89020
34430. Otherwise, you please contact with Professor Bishas, Jayanta Kumar Bishas. I have been in touch with him. He's a very renowned person.
I am a scholar of that department.
Yeah, I see. That's very good. So as you are residing in India, Nodia is worstly suffering from groundwater arsenic contamination scenario, as well as nitrate, what I highlighted in my presentation.
Yes, sir. I am
So
working
you should
on
do something
nitrate
for your own district.
Yes, and I am working on that nitrate pollution on water bodies.
Yeah.
I am working on
So
it.
if you require any more suggestion, any more involvement, any more research, what I say, any research findings, or if you need any kind of help from our side, whatever resource I have,
Yes, sir.
So we are ready to provide you all these kinds of things because you are the student, you are the future of our beloved nation. So you need to find out the way. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
As we are running behind our schedule, I would like to conclude this interactive session. And again, I would like to thank Professor Roy Chaudhary for his wonderful lecture and uh, vast information regarding the alarming situation of groundwater pollution in different parts of India. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for your wonderful lecture, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we'll go to our second technical session. That lecture will be delivered by Professor Obi Gupta, and the Vice Chairperson of Tripura State Higher Educational Council and former Pro-VC and Professor and Dean of School of Environmental Sciences, Assam University, Silchar. I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Sushil Kumar Mondal, to introduce Professor Gupta before his lecture.
So Professor Majumdar, so with your due permission, so can
Yes,
I
sir.
leave the desk now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can, sir.
Okay, thank you for your invitation and well managed international webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sushilda, your mic is turned off.
Thank you very much, Dr. Majumdar, for giving me the opportunity to introduce an eminent professor and a renowned scientist, Professor Ovik Gupta. It is my great pleasure and honor to me to introduce Professor Ovik Gupta. Firstly, I am very glad to inform you all that Professor Gupta has strong bonding with our department since its foundation. I cordially invite you to deliver your lecture on COVID-19 pandemic, food security, and xenobiotic contamination, eco-ethical perspectives. I hope that your valuable lecture will enlighten and enrich highly to this international webinar. Your participation as keynote speaker would set the tone perfectly for our webinar. With this brief introduction, I welcome Professor Gupta. Sir, please deliver your speech.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for inviting me to this very important event, and I congratulate you for organizing such a nice webinar with participation of a number of eminent scientists and scholars. So anyway, without how much time do I have? How much
Sir,
time?
this session will be with interaction. It will be for 1 hour.
Okay. I can speak for about 30 to 35 minutes.
You can speak more than 45 minutes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I'll, without wasting more time, I'll move to my presentation, which I would like to share. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Okay. And just I would like to check, is the slide moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Because that is one thing sometimes creates problem, doesn't move. Okay. So as already announced by the faculty introducing me, that it is on COVID-19 pandemic, food security and xenobiotic contamination.
and we are trying to take an overview of this particular issue, three issues, in fact, 3 or 4 issues combined together. So actually, we all know, we are all passing through it, so I need not elaborate really that COVID-19 has emerged, what I think is a major disruptive event, because it has created major disruptions in all walks of our life. Take economy, take industry, take agriculture, education, our lives, everyday life, everything has been affected tremendously, disrupted tremendously by COVID-19. Now, if we look at COVID-19 with a bit of a long-term view, it's actually a part of emerging infectious diseases, about which the scientists have been warning us since a long time. But as happens that we tend to go with business as usual, and therefore, when it came, then it was like a shock. Of course, the origin of COVID-19 is still debated. A number of animal intermediate hosts were shown, but then again, these are not conclusively proved. And also there is the theory of laboratory origin, which has also not been proved. So that intermediate portion, I mean, from bat, how did it come, or whether did it come from the laboratory, whether it is human manufactured, that kind of, that is still being debated. Anyway, let us not go to that. But taking that it's a part of the emerging infectious diseases, or EIDs. These are diseases, a number of which have also recently appeared, and those which are spreading, increasing their geographic range, or threatens to increase in the near future. And a lot of possible EID causing agents have been identified, and 70% of these are zoonotic. That is, and majority again out of these are caused by viruses. So as you know, a zoonosis is any disease or infection that is transmitted from vertebrate animals to humans, and it could be bacterial or viral or parasitic, or even prions, as in this mad cow disease. So anyway, but these are the diseases which are really concern for human health, economy, and everything, in fact. And also we can see that the whole world is affected at different intensities, and even remote islands have not been spared. Some infections have appeared even in those islands. And if you can just take a brief look at the patterns, most of the countries have undergone several waves, as they are being called. In India, we mainly have 2 waves, but the other countries are having more waves, 3, sometimes 4. As you can see in United Kingdom, again now they're experiencing maybe a 3rd wave. So it is basically, as I think the countries have tried to open up the economy because of the tremendous pressure on the economy because of the recession. Then again, the virus has surfaced and then become and again started spreading among the population, or some super spreading event has taken place, and then it started spreading. So because of these reasons, there has been waves after waves, and in between also the virus has undergone mutation, and number of variants have appeared. So you know all these things, we are all aware. So I'm not going into the detail, but what I want to see is that it's a kind of a persistent scourge that has been affecting the world right since the early 2020. And these are the different countries where we have slightly different type of patterns of these waves coming. And in European countries also, I mean, they have not been spared from this virus. No part of the world actually has been spared. These are some of the countries which I tried to show how in some, if you look at Pakistan, for example, very interestingly, the total number, I mean, I'm not considering here, that's a different issue, but you see it had almost 4 waves till now. So it is not the size of the country or its stage of development, all have been affected in different ways. Malaysia could somehow, avoid it in the initial years. But even that day, I was talking to a friend in Malaysia. Now they're really having quite a tough time, trying to keep the infections under check. So their healthcare system, etc., are being strained, just like has happened in our country. So it is COVID-19 is really having a far-reaching effect on almost all conceivable areas of life, and as I have tried to show, that you take any area and you will find a kind of a decline, a depressing effect of this virus. And one area which has been very badly affected is livelihood, and it is estimated that about 50% of the world's 3.3 billion workforce are at the risk of losing their livelihoods, which is a catastrophic situation actually, which we are facing. And of course, workers in unorganized sectors are much more vulnerable, because these are the people who are the first to lose their jobs or have pay cuts, or are deprived of the benefits which they normally enjoy. And again, we have the very contentious issue of migrant workers. Of course, in India, we have seen how during the first wave, particularly, the migrant workers faced a tremendous problem, and it was a very, very contentious issue. But it is not confined to India. In fact, in India, a lot of interstate migration of workers have taken place. In countries like Philippines, and from Philippines and Vietnam, a lot of people go to work in more affluent neighboring countries, in Japan, in South Korea, in China, and they have also lost their jobs and come back to their own country, and that way they have Bangladesh also. So this way, a lot of upheaval has taken place in the workforce, their lives, their livelihoods, and in the economy. And as it stands, that many of this workforce, many of the workers are unable to feed their families, which links us to the food and nutrition, impact of COVID-19. And obviously, the impact is higher in low-income countries. But we cannot say that the rich countries have not been affected also, as I'll show you later with the example of USA. And vulnerable and poorer sections in all countries are affected to varying extents. And what are these effects? There could be very many types. I've just tried to list some of them. For example, distress sale of assets. This is one problem, because they might have acquired some assets, but now they have to sell it just to get money to buy food and other essentials. Predatory loans, because COVID-19 again is a big ethical issue in my opinion, because on the one hand, it has sort of stirred up the good side of human beings, frontline workers, doctors, sacrificing their lives to save other people, giving up everything in their life, not caring for their own benefit or own safety, and trying to save people. But at the same time, there have been predators who are coming with predatory loans, who are coming with profit-making motives, and therefore all these are coming. They're taking advantage. Child labor is increasing. Neglect of healthcare, because people have to first buy food and then think of their health. Mental health problems. This is a major issue cropping up in among this workforce because of losing their jobs and feeling a sense of less of worth in the society, and so on. And of course, food shortage and malnutrition, which is a very important issue linked with COVID-19 and any similar catastrophic events. And food security, therefore, it emerges as a very important aspect affected by COVID-19. And this is actually a great warning sign to us, because similar way the food security could be affected again by emerging infectious diseases in future. We have to actually be prepared for any such exigencies. And there is a World Bank report, very recent report actually from August 2021, and it shows that this acute food insecurity is growing in increasing number of countries. And whatever gains the world had made fighting against food insecurity are being reversed. And that's a very pitiable state of affairs. And of course, it's not only COVID, but joined with other drivers, for example, conflict, natural hazards, climate change, and all these. But these are being accentuated by COVID-19. And as I said, that if we take the example of USA, you can see that food insecurity trends and projections in USA, and they have sort of tried to build up three scenarios, A, B, C, three potential scenarios. And in scenario A, it takes unemployment increase by 1.1% and poverty by 1.5%. Then in scenario B, slightly more. And in scenario C, of course, very high unemployment, 7.6%, and poverty of 4.8%. And then 17.1 million more people will experience food insecurity. But in the list, the most optimistic scenario, we have 3.3 million more people in USA alone will be experiencing food insecurity. So if this is the condition of USA, where there is a lot very strong support systems and a lot of wealth and resource, then we can very well imagine what will happen in the marginal economies of the world. And scenario A and B represent situations which are similar to that produced by the Great Recession of 1930s, which was the most catastrophic event faced by the USA and the world in recent times. Number of food insecure people in USA in 2019, it is 35,207,000 and 10.73% of its total population. So it's not a mean number. So even with such a situation in USA, it's obviously, needless to say, it's a very big challenge to the whole world and especially to the low and middle income countries. So these impacts are expected to continue in 2021 through 2022. And we don't know. It is again very uncertain because we have this spread of Delta variant and might make it continue further. There is an apprehension that because of this Delta variant, and again, we don't know whether other variants will emerge or not, because the disease is being stagnant in many places. And therefore, there is a great possibility that it will undergo mutation and produce different variants. So anyway, so this is a quite a dicey situation, I must say, and a situation which is not totally certain. And similar situations may be produced in future by other infectious diseases also, other EIDs. Now, if we look at the impact on agricultural production, agricultural commodity situation, which is linked obviously with food and nutrition, the agricultural commodity price index is at highest level since 2013. And food price index, actually published by FAO, it's taking a steep upward climb. 30% rise has taken place from January 2020 to July 16, 2021. It's very, very steep. And again, if you come to specific items, because staple items, which are on which the poor people, the marginal people depend a lot. Rise in maize price by 43%. Maize is real poor man's food in many areas, arid zones, etc. Mountain zones. Maize is one of the main staple food of people, and maize allows them to survive. So this is a very alarming situation. Wheat and rice prices also by 12 and 10% above January 2020. So this is a big challenge. And again, supply disruptions, which is one of the major factors. Because today, food, we are dependent a lot on imports, not on local food so much sometimes, very often, and on imports and centralized systems, food systems. And therefore, these are signs of strain and breaking down in some places. And besides, weather uncertainties, etc., are also there. And higher retail prices of food and reduced income. So this is at the on the one hand, the price is rising. On the other hand, income is getting reduced. And that obviously is leading to more hunger. And World Hunger Day, which is celebrated every year on May 28th, I think, this year and last year, it has really assumed great significance. A very high symbolic significance because hunger is increasing. And World Bank actually conducted a survey in 48 countries, rapid survey through mobile and such devices. And they found that everywhere the number of people suffering from food shortage is increasing. And how they're trying to adjust? Very often they're trying to adjust by reducing their consumption, or trying to set aside most of their food for people whom they prioritize, and so they're trying to save for them, and that way many family, and especially family members, particularly women, they are forced to reduce their consumption. So there is a lot of social cultural factors involved here, and therefore it assumes a very serious proportion. And if you look at the statistic, between 720 and 811 million people, the median value is 768 million in the world went hungry in 2020. And this is based on a United Nations report on the state of food security and nutrition. And the median value, this 768, is 118 million more than that in 2019. And obviously, we can take this as at least a large part of it is the fallout of COVID-19. And therefore, the food access is very important. It's not only food availability or production, but who gets the food, or how many people are able to get the food. And more than, agricultural factors are involved here. And this indicator, when it was being used, year-round access to food, then it was found that the situation is real alarming, more alarming than the earlier reports have revealed, because 2,370 million people, about 30% of world's population, lacked access to adequate food. And this was an increase of 320 million from 2019. And this World Food Program, they have shown that out of these, people who are facing some problem or other about food, about 265 million people face the risk of becoming acutely food insecure. They are really on the brink. Acutely food insecure means their lives or livelihoods are at risk because of lack of food. Because they don't have food, they cannot work. Because they don't have food, they're at the risk of falling sick and dying. And therefore, that's the acute situation. And by the end of 2020, that is the situation where we have 265 million people facing the risk of acute food insecurity. And this is an increase of 130 million from the pre-COVID-19 period. So it's a stupendous rise, almost double. Obviously, it was about 135 million before COVID struck us. And now we have 265 million. And some of the countries are facing really very, very tough situation. Ethiopia, Ethiopia is, chronically hunger-affected area in Africa. Madagascar, again, that very rich biodiversity-rich island, but it is not able to provide food to its people. South Sudan, again, chronically affected area. Yemen, the pictures that we see in the world press are terrifying, where famine-like conditions are prevailing, and children are dying. People are somehow trying to eke out their life and livelihood. And in Syria, which is also, of course, war-ravaged, not only COVID, to top that, the war situation there, and the food cost, it's a staggering increase by 240%. Imagine what's happening to people. On the one hand, war, total chaos, and no perhaps employment going down, and the food price is rising very, very steeply. And similarly, 33%, much less, but even then it's very high in Ghana. And wheat and cassava prices, again here, the basic staple food. Cassava is a staple food in many poor areas, poor countries. In South Sudan, it is rising. It has risen by 62 and 41% since 2020. So these figures I'm just quoting just to impress upon you the gravity of the situation when we think of the food situation, food and nutrition situation in the whole world. And of course, in India also we have our own problems, and it's somewhere perhaps somewhere in between the worst and the better situation. Maize price in Kenya rose by 60%, rice price by more than 30% in Nigeria. And now another question is here, that simply providing maize or rice or wheat is not enough. When you talk of nutritious food, we mean that it should be protein rich, it should be vitamin rich, and for that we not only it's enough to have the carbohydrates, but we need protein rich food like eggs, we need mineral and vitamin rich food like fruits and vegetables, and these are much more expensive in many of these countries. And it is not really, I mean, common people or poor people don't have access to this kind of nutrient rich food. And that is again creating a big issue of health and nutrition. And then a target group, a very vulnerable group besides women, are the children. And they're out of school. 1.6 billion children out of school in 199 countries. And as you know, in many poverty-stricken areas, or even low-income countries, or even middle-income countries, a lot of children depend on getting a nutritious meal in the school or in the educational institution. 370 million such children in 150 countries are deprived of access to nutritious meals. And this is a report given by UNICEF. Many children in Latin America, Caribbean, and Africa deprived of nutritious school feeding programs on which they are heavily dependent. And why these countries? In India, I know in my area where I live, many children are dependent, or they look forward to having the school meal which is being provided, which is also, sometimes, as you know, there is a lot of corruption, and good food is being pilfered and so on. But still, whatever they get there, they're highly dependent on that, because that is one good meal, at least a belly-full meal they're getting, and maybe they're not getting so much at their home because of various problems. And now because of COVID-19, their parents are without jobs sometimes, or earning much less than what they used to do, and the school meal is also gone. So therefore, they're the worst victims of malnutrition and disease and a bleak future. And therefore, this Committee on World Food Security and had a high-level panel of experts who sort of tried to summarize this whole situation. And as you can see, COVID-19 is like the center of the spoke of problems. From COVID-19, various lockdown policies adopted by the different governments, state governments or provincial governments or national governments, and lockdown could be partial, could be full, complete lockdown, or could be for differing period of time. But in any case, obviously one effect is deepening inequalities, because this is already a big problem in the world in all issues, that the problem of equity, because equity is seriously compromised in many countries, in most of the countries, and that is a very, very negative aspect of our development, the so-called development that we are sometimes very proud of. And now that all these are being accentuated. Global economic recession, obviously jobs are less, disrupted supply chains, because transport network, etc., are all disrupted social protection, uneven food price effects, because people are again doing panic buying. Those who have money, they're buying food, hoarding food. People are hoarding, black marketeering. All these are going on, and more so in the low-income countries, where the administrative machinery is often not as efficient as it should be, and therefore these countries are suffering more. Changes in production, altered food environments, all these are finally leading to increased poverty and food insecurity, and food insecurity is leading to malnutrition and serious health problems among a lot of people. And COVID-19 is becoming a very great disrupting event, because it is likely to retard or even undo the progress of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, on which the world is looking forward to so much, and which were initiated in 2015 and to be achieved by 2030. And out of these 17 SDGs, 2 SDGs are dependent on food security. SDG 1, no poverty. I mean, if you don't have food, obviously you can't say you don't have poverty, because if you have poverty, then you don't have food. And SDG 2, zero hunger. So these two, very, very important targets for the people of the world are becoming more and more unachievable because of the disastrous impact of COVID-19. So this is a major disruptive event, as I said, and it's a major challenge to the whole world. Now, I'll just go back to Professor M.S. Swaminathan, the doyen of Indian agricultural science. And long back in 2001, he was talking about the changing perspectives on food security. So he said, I mean, he wrote there, I mean, of course, that time there was no COVID or nobody even dreamt of COVID. But then, he was based on his huge experience and his intellect. He was making certain predictions and certain apprehensions, which have been coming true or proving true as time is passing. And there we can see that earlier we thought, you see, that if you have enough production, enough food, okay, fine, then everybody should be getting food. But that is not the case, because you may have a lot of food in the godowns, but people, if they lack purchasing power, they cannot have access to balanced diets. Or if you don't have a system of public distribution where you can give efficient system, where you can give, distribute food at subsidized prices, then obviously if people don't have purchasing power, they cannot have access to balanced diets. And again, balanced diet. So you may provide rice and dal and all that, but you may not be able to provide the other items which are required to make a balanced diet. And COVID-19 is now having significant impact of all these aspects of food and nutrition. And again, absorption of food is linked to availability of safe drinking water. I mean, if you're not having safe drinking water, you'll have stomach upsets, and then you will not be able to digest and absorb your food. Simple as that. So not only you need food, not only you should have access to food, you must have safe drinking water, and also you must have access to that safe drinking water. Yes, somebody was talking in the earlier talk about, say, water purifiers. Now, the thing is that how many people have access to sophisticated water purifiers? So if we cannot get safe drinking water in the tap itself, many of us more unfortunate people in the society, the marginal people in the society, will not have access to safe drinking water, and will not have access because of their lack of access to sophisticated purifying devices. So environmental hygiene, healthcare, all these factors are actually woven together. We cannot really pick up one and say, well, we can improve this. So we may have some reductionist, approach to improve each one of these, but finally we have to put them together and have a holistic, a kind of, a whole picture to give us the ideal situation. And the quality of food, as I said earlier also, protein calorie deficiency, that is very common, open malnutrition. That's what was said by Swaminathan. Micronutrient deficiency, hidden malnutrition. And that is a much more subtle thing. You need a whole diversity of food to take care of your micronutrient deficiency. And here I would like to add xenobiotic contamination of food, which also has a lot of ecological and ethical implications. Heavy metals and pesticide residues in food, soil, and water. And these issues actually show us that there is a lot of environmental connection of food and nutrition. Besides the soil fertility and water quality and all that, also this xenobiotic contamination of food is a very important issue. I think I have about 10 minutes more. I can speak.
Yes, sir, you have.
Okay, thank you. So chemical contamination of food, actually there has been an excellent review, because there are lots of piecemeal information here. We have also done some work where locally we have shown some of the chemical contamination of food and water and soil. But anyway, this is a review, global problem, because it's a global overview, and it shows a wide range of contaminants, or maybe all the contaminants are not there so much in all the countries. As we shall see later, but almost all countries, all regions are affected by one group of contaminant or the other, or sometimes multiple range of contaminants. Heavy metals and metalloids. The earlier speaker was talking about arsenic in West Bengal. Maybe in some areas, other heavy metals are also present. Arsenic is a metalloid, and mainly from industrial, but sometimes geogenic sources like arsenic or fluoride. These are natural sources. We can't help it. Our geology is like that, and it is contributing to arsenic or fluoride. And this is happening in many parts of the world. Dioxins and polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, from industrial sources. Pesticides from agricultural use. Again, intensive agriculture. Again, linked with food and nutrition directly. To provide enough food, we must have agriculture, intensive agriculture, and pesticide and synthetic fertilizer, and contamination of the environment. Then drugs and drug residues from people and animals. And then now there is a lot of packaging, leaching of chemical contaminants. These are called migrants from packaging material. That is also taking place. Packaging materials are contributing to migrant leaching. And if we see, this is a kind of an overview, and also it could be through inhalation, contact, ingestion, and livestock, human, all are affected. And contamination pathway is very much widespread, and in all environmental medium, air, water, soil, and also in food. And if we just take a rapid glimpse of the different types of food contaminants, this table is also from Thompson and Dervish. As you can see, metals and metalloids in grains and vegetables, livestock organs, ship livers, agricultural crops, locally produced foods, lettuce and chard, salad, soybeans, fish, and throughout the world, China, Morocco, and so on. Mycotoxins also present in many, like wheat, barley, okay, Japanese retail foods, wheat flour, maize, antimicrobials in a lot of meat, milk product, and in many parts of the world. pH, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, again present in barbecued foods. Yogurt. Yogurt is a very healthy food, but yogurt from Italy, there are some studies to show that pHs are present there. Grains, flour and bran, oyster, whatnot. Oyster is a very popular food in large parts of the world. Pesticides and PCBs, again, in all sorts of products. So it's what I just want to impress here is that, it's so widespread. This is only just, what should I say, just a kind of a skimmed thing from the surface we have shown, as they said, tip of the iceberg. So this is really the tip of the iceberg of food contamination by different xenobiotic contaminants. Radioactive substances. And there is some report of radionuclides in seafood from India. So in fact, India has not figured in the other studies, although there are lots of issues in India also regarding metals and metalloids and pesticides and so on. But here, the major studies, the one which are seminal studies, have been reflected, and it shows India to be having the risk of radionuclides. And also, of course, there is a lot of remediation process. But again, there, whether we are technology dependent or we are taking an ecological approach is a very big question, especially for low and middle income countries. Because we may have some sophisticated technologies, but whether these will be accepted by the people, that is one thing. Second, whether these will be afforded by the people, that is another question. In the previous talk, you have seen how the arsenic removal resins and so on. These devices are being thrown around here and there. So it's also, how the population, how the people adapt to such things. So there could be, of course, many ecologically acceptable and simple yet efficient solutions like soil turnover and mixing to dilute contaminants like heavy metals. But again, thermal treatment, which is more sophisticated. But long-term gardening, it's very interesting. Actually, I was reading, and long-term gardening is found to reduce pH because of microbial degradation. So this is one way, whether we can induce more microbial degradation in the soil and sort of degrade substances like PAH or other organic compounds like DDT residues and so on. And we could even use phytoremediation. It depends, maybe a combination of different types of remediation, which could be more amenable in low and middle income countries in the developing world in the other sense. The other thing is water management. Because if we are remediating the soil, but again, putting in, contaminated water for irrigation, then that's again will take us back to square one. So that is again a very important issue, and particularly in paddy fields, because in many countries it has become a major issue where use of contaminated water in paddy fields is leading to contamination of rice and a lot of other problems. And this is improving the environment in which we cultivate our food, we produce our food. And then we have to reduce the concentration in the food itself. And certain cultural practices are also responsible. For example, in many parts of our country or in other countries also, there is the practice of smoking of meat. Smoked fish, smoked salmon is a great delicacy in many parts of the world. Smoked meat. In Northeast India, people smoke their meat and keep this for the lean times. So that can lead to PAH contamination and also some other carcinogens in the food. And again, replacing open fires with gas stoves. Now that move by any government or any agency is a great move, because that way we are avoiding PAH contamination, and also at the same time we are improving the kitchen environment and saving the lives of women who are suffering from anemia and so on. And so management strategies, when we think of India, as again, I refer back to Swaminathan, and long back he wrote that thankfully in India, agriculture is still a farmer's farming and not factory farming. And today we realize, because this was thought to be a kind of a backward, characteristics, a backward feature, that you are still having farmers farming and not factory farming. But today, as we look back, and also in the context of COVID, that it is a strength and not weakness. And what the sentiment expressed by Dr. Swaminathan assumes, great importance today. And in the possible post-COVID scenario, we can take advantage of our farmers farming and improve in a very innovative way. And here I would like to point out the need for decentralizing the food system. This has also been recommended by several international bodies, and protecting or augmenting the local food system, because this has been allowed to simply, go awry in most countries. The local food system has been degraded like anything. It has been under tremendous assault. And this would also facilitate a healthier food system. An emphasis on self-reliance. And actually, we have this now Atmanirbhar programs, Atmanirbhar Krishi, Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Atmanirbhar Krishi, self-reliant agriculture is a very important step towards this direction, decentralizing and producing self-reliant local systems. And we need a lot of public funds to be allocated to support local farmers and improve the supply chain, because that way the supply chain is local and therefore resistant to any large disturbances outside, and that way people have access to food, and also lead to local crops becoming more accessible than the imported ones, as I said. And this initiative also needs to be accompanied by promotion of organic farming. This is what I feel, because that way we are going to achieve overall improvement of soil and water quality. And these measures will also address issues like panic buying and resultant price rise, hoarding, etc. Because when we have local food security, then we can take care of many of these problems. No one can take advantage of the marginal people in the society in terms of their food access. And in India, if you think of the migrant labor problem which took place, we have seen a lot of that in the TV, heart-rending, coverage. Now, much of these jobless people in cities, when they lost their jobs due to COVID-19, they came back to their native villages. They really, they were desperate, so they came back to their native villages. But why did they leave the native village? Majority had left not because they wanted the glitter of the cities and all that, but because simply they lacked resources. Maybe the small land, it was gone because of various social, political factors, and also because of improper resource management. And some, of course, might have left because they are looking for better and more paying opportunities. Forget it. But most of them are basically agricultural people who are rooted to their land, but could not do so because of all these bad management practices and the breakdown of local food system. And majority of this labor force are from farmer households. So in a sense, I would like to call them environmental refugees. And in this diagram, I have tried to show this, because if we think of the rural ecosystem, then we could visualize like 3 layers of people here. In the core are those people who are more or less comfortable. They can somehow stick to their land, somehow make some agricultural produce and some supplementary income and can survive. There are other people who are not so well off and they're struggling. And on the outermost layer are the most marginal people, landless sometimes, or having unproductive land and not having the capital to utilize that land. And they're migrating in large numbers to the city environment. And in the city environment, they cannot reach the core. The core is occupied by, the well-off people, the salaried people, the people who are having permanent jobs, and so on, the white-collar people. And again, some are able to make foothold there and somehow survive. But moment there are some catastrophic events like COVID-19, the outer part who are marginal. I've met scores of such marginal people from many states, from Assam, from West Bengal, in cities of India, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in many places. And these are the people who lost their job and again made a reverse migration to the rural ecosystem. But in the rural ecosystem, the local food system has already collapsed. So they don't have any foothold there again. And they don't have access to food. And these are the people whose families will be really suffering from malnutrition and lack of food. So this is the issue which our Atmanirbhar Krishi has to address, because to somehow re-energize the rural local food systems and keeping them organic, because that way we'll not be degrading the rural environment, we'll be contributing to our environmental capital, but at the same time we'll be providing enough productive work also, and also food production for these marginal people, and ensure local food security, which is very important for marginal people. It's not so important maybe for people who have a lot of money, who have money to spare, because they can buy things from outside. But poor people cannot order things on Amazon so easily, or on Big Basket or like that. And they have to depend more on local food, which is in fact more healthy. We should all go for that if possible. So this is, I think, one area which needs very serious attention. And food security had emerged, earlier as an important global issue. There was a expo in Milan in 2015, Feeding the Planet, Energy for Life. And these titles embodied several challenges: secure supply of safe, nutritious, and affordable, high-quality food using less land with lower inputs. And our present approach is leading to serious degradation of the environment, soil degradation, loss of biodiversity, climate change. And here comes organic farming. It can provide more nutritious food with less or no pesticide residues, and also lower use of inputs. And I have seen in one tea garden which had gone the organic way in my area, that it engages more labor. It's more labor intensive. So it provides more employment because you are not spraying pesticides, but you are picking up the weeds, or you are trying to mulch them and so on. So you need a lot of labor force. The money which you are using in chemicals earlier are now being put in the labor force. The only limit of organic farming is perhaps its restricted capability. A recent review showed that of producing food compared to conventional agriculture. But otherwise, they're very beneficial for the soil, which tend to retain the physical, chemical, and biological properties. And the challenge is to resolve the productivity gap. That is the real challenge, which has to be met by the scientific community, by the agricultural community, and even by the farmers and the policymakers all alike. And then, since COVID is an animal linkage, so this One Health approach, again an old approach, because zoonotic affliction like COVID-19 and such zoonotic afflictions are likely to occur again in future. And so we need that One Health approach. I have here shown from where we think of the health not only as human health, not only having one hospital for the people or some health center, but interconnection, health interconnection between people, animals, plants, and their shared environment. And here food and nutrition occupies a very, very central role, because when you are having depredations of a disease, if you have a population which has enough food, which is provided with healthy food, then it is much more resilient and much more resistant both to the scourge of the new disease. And because again, the growth of human population, and we are expanding into new areas, we are cutting down forests and coming into closer contact with wild animals, and thereby, I'm not going to show all the examples, maybe some other day, that when there is more such close contact between human and wildlife, then the chances of such viruses, zoonotic viruses, jumping over is increasing much more. And we also have the domesticated animal situation, which is most unethical. The way these are being, farmed, these are being raised. If you look at the chicken poultry industry, it is most inhuman treatment being meted out to these birds. And please remember that we had a great scare of bird flu, and we are very fortunate that bird flu did not prove to have human transmission. It remained confined to birds. Just very limited, one or two people or few people got infected by bird flu, and it did not have any human-to-human transmission. If it had, we would have had a very, very difficult situation in our hand, but we cannot ensure that tomorrow such a transmission will not happen. So therefore, this One Health approach is very, very important. I think when we speak of health, we have to think of human health, we have to think of public health, we have to think of animal health, we have to think of environmental health as a whole, because that is the real biocentric or ecocentric ethical approach that we have to take if we have to survive and successfully manage and combat afflictions like COVID-19, which of course I sincerely hope that will emerge out of this crisis. But again, being a realist, I would also say that such afflictions might affect us again in the future, or even COVID-19 may become kind of subterranean, and then again emerge with some new variant and produce new challenges, maybe not throughout the world, but maybe in some parts of the world, and then again have. So we have to keep on, meeting these challenges as we move, and the situation will be more complicated by climate change because of the altered rainfall regime, altered temperature regime, and the attendant consequences. And in the epilogue, I would just like to conclude that was it totally unexpected? Many people were telling, but I would say it was not at all unexpected. And if we look back at 1958, one of the fathers of ecology wrote about ecological explosions. And he said that such ecological explosion could be an infectious virus like influenza. So what is COVID? It's like influenza only. It's a virus of another family. That's all. Or a bacterium like the bubonic plague, or fungus. We are hearing so much about black fungus and so on. So basically, it's an explosion. He said he used the word explosion deliberately because it means the bursting out from control of forces. This is very important, bursting out from control. If we temper too much with the controlling mechanisms, with the confining mechanisms that nature has provided, then we are going to land in such very, very difficult situations. That's what he meant actually, and very, very prophetic statement that Charles S. Elton had made in 1958. And in 1988, J. Lederberg, again a pioneering epidemiologist, he said that the opening of wildlands to human occupation also has exposed people to unaccustomed animal viruses, to zoonoses. I mean, it would seem as if they knew that COVID-19 will be occurring. And J.E. Cohen in 1995, the wild beasts of this century and the next are microbial, not carnivorous. So COVID-19 is much more dangerous to us than tigers or lions or jaguars or pumas. And the risk of emergence of a novel bat COV disease can be envisioned. And it's as recent as 2018. Because everywhere in Malaysia, in many other places, the way the bats were losing their natural habitat, and we are creating artificial habitat for bat. And the virologists, epidemiologists, they could envision that there could be some viral transfer from the bat, Nipah virus ultimately from the bat, and even COVID-19 from bat, because they are the reservoirs of these zoonotic viruses. So a global atlas of zoonotic viruses, also in the process of being prepared. Already over 1,000 viruses with the potential of explosion like COVID-19 have been found, but there is a total disconnect and a kind of what should I say? A kind of connect between the scientific community, the policymakers, the media, and all these, the educationists, all that is required to really develop an ethically supported, ethically strong, reinforced, and knowledgeable population, which we also need besides the other resources to manage efficiently the scourges like that of COVID-19. So with these words, I would once again thank you. My data, which I have used, I have tried to take very, very authentic data from international sources. And thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Gupta, for your wonderful lecture, and you have enlightened us enough for this food security and environmental problems raised during this COVID pandemic situation, along with shortage of food and unemployment throughout unemployment globally. So I would like to ask the participants, if you have any queries, you can raise your hands. or ask directly to Professor Gupta. Any one of you have any queries? Scholars, do you have any queries? Does not seem so. So I will thank you again, you, Professor Gupta, for your wonderful lecture, and have a nice day ahead. So.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here and share some information and ideas with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would like to quote Pope John Paul II. He said, "The earth will not continue to offer its harvest except with faithful stewardship. We cannot say we love the land and then take steps to destroy it for the use of future generations." Now, I would like to ask my colleague, Senior Professor Dr. Sushmita Lahiti, to deliver his speech on the synthesis of the program, and then we can conclude today's session. Dr. Sushmita Lahiti, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. So, thank you to our respected speakers. Today we have gathered for a most prestigious webinar focusing on the all-round relationship between the environmental impacts and human food and nutrition. And we have been highly privileged and honored to experience the valuable talks of our renowned speakers, Professor Fluoride Chaudhary and Professor Odit Gupta, whose contribution in this field is at a global level. First of all, I want to thank Professor Fluoride Chaudhary. We are very much thankful to him, who emphasized in his talk on the most burning environmental issue of our very own West Bengal, the arsenic contamination, and its gradual progress on a temporal and spatial contamination, increasing health risks there. And by this lecture, our attention was also drawn to the fact that our very own district, Nadia district, was the most contaminated in this state, with major first reason being the groundwater extraction for agricultural purposes, especially from the shallow depths, because of their inability of our poor farmers to afford a deep level extraction. And interestingly, this arsenic contamination is increasing by 5 to 10-fold within few years, which is an alarming issue. Another important finding that we got from this valuable lecture is that the arsenic contamination or the concentration is very high in the parboiled rice, as observed in some school children who have received, who have been contaminated through this midday meal preparation, and in comparison with the drinking water contamination. And also some animal husbandry products have been found to be major dietary sources of arsenic contamination, which is affecting mainly our skin and causing cancer. So here we have found a direct relationship or the direct impact of the arsenic contamination with our food and nutrition. He also highlighted some important health risks coming from the fluoride contamination of groundwater, which has been recorded as which has achieved a major dimension than in comparison with the arsenic contamination affecting the human bone system. And this has been found mainly in the western part of West Bengal and not in the Ganga basin, as has been found in the case of arsenic contamination. And gradually it is becoming a risk for Calcutta region too. Nitrate contamination has also been highlighted. Nitrate contamination of drinking water has also been highlighted to be threatening our health system. So the major mitigating options, as he pointed out, that should be the treating surface water bodies, rainwater harvesting for irrigation. These are the possible mitigation options, along with developing some arsenic removal technologies. But that may suffer from some monitoring problems. And also some emerging research field that has come out, that is the study of the antioxidant defense system of the rice seed against this arsenic stress. And I'm sure that our dear students, research scholars and other participants and dignitaries will develop a keen interest after listening to this valuable talk to work hard for the management of this burning issue and its present implementation loopholes to achieve the sustainability. Professor Abhik Gupta, we know that he is very much close to us, our department, and has always guided us in every respect of our research areas. So he has enlightened us with the most important fact that how our world is facing the present immense crisis of COVID-19 pandemic with variable number and intensities of waves in different countries. And the major impact he has pointed out is that on the livelihood, economy, and downstreaming to poverty-related food security problems, among other effects. It is surprising to know that even the developed nation like US has suffered with increasing unemployment and poverty due to this pandemic. And this has been projected to continue till 2022. As a result of this crisis, the prices of food have risen while the income has fallen, leading to an increase in hunger from 2020. Also, the access to food, safe food or good food, as well as safe drinking water, has also been affected. And there has been a twofold increase from the pre-COVID time to now, the present time. We also got to know many detailed statistics regarding this, which made everyone understand the extent of damage this pandemic has caused to the quality of human life, emphasizing on food security all over the world. And a number of factors, responsible factors, linking the nexus between this COVID-19 pandemic to increased insecurity, food insecurity, such as disrupting supply chains, transport network, etc., have been highlighted, thus failing to achieve the relevant SDGs. So now, this lecture has pointed out all the projected, all the four driving elements of the link up between the COVID-19 pandemic and the food and nutrition problem of the human life in this condition, including the protein deficiency, arsenic contamination, agricultural malpractices, etc. But the mitigating technologies are also not properly implemented and suffer from drawbacks. So the lecture has helped us to draw many future prospects such as self-reliance, promotion of organic farming, solving the problems of migrant laborers who are the environmental refugees in this condition, etc. Also, the avoidance of close contact between the human and the animal has been highlighted. Now the lecture has finally concluded with a valuable information that it can be perceived, this pandemic crisis can be perceived as an ecological explosion which needs to be controlled. And so I want to show my deep gratitude towards them, as our students, research scholars must have been sensitized with the knowledge gained today and can focus on studying the significant areas of today's talk in their future pursuit of environmental research. So finally, I'm again thanking our respective speakers, and I'm also thankful to our organizing team and our students, research scholars, and other dignitaries who have participated in this important international webinar. Thank you. So I will now ask our secretary to conclude the session.
Many thanks to Professor Gupta for giving you nice presentation.
Okay,
Sorry, Judge.
I will request.
Okay. Okay.
So you
Today's
can complete work.
today's session is almost over. I would like to conclude our today's session with a quote from famous innovator Bill Gates. He said, "Innovations are guided by smallholder farmers, adapted to local circumstances, and sustainable for the economy and the environment. Will be necessary to ensure food security in our future." So, I would like to thank you all for joining this today's international seminar on environment, food, health, NEXUS under changing global scenario. So, on this note, I would like to conclude today's session. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you very much. So with your permission, I would leave the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You can leave now. I would like to again ask the participant to leave this meeting now.